Hey y'all, how we doing? We're doing some heckin' co-working today. Oh boy, we're just gonna hop right into it. I hope y'all are cool with this, cause literally it was one of those extremely last-second decisions to switch to a co-working stream. I haven't even texted Ben yet. Uh, okay. Do, do, do. Ba-da-da-ba. But yeah, it's been the past few weeks and especially last night have been some days of such where I have been extraordinarily sleep deprived. And there's some days where I feel it more than others, and today is definitely one of those days. So we're gonna do some co-working today. Some very sleep deprived co-working. Today in particular, it's kind of a mix of things. Like the usual thing has been Ben has a temporarily wonky sleep schedule, not sleep schedule. I have a wonky sleep schedule, a work schedule. There we go. That's been keeping him out late in the evenings, which then disrupts my sleep. Um, but last night in particular was a there was a Dead by Daylight event of sorts, which I do trust I have big feelings about. If y'all don't follow me on Blue Sky, which, you know, shameless plug, you absolutely should. Need a bit of a rant over there. And especially in the, also apologies to my friends in our private Dead by Daylight channel who had to witness my, like, tired, cranky ramblings. So basically what they did, what Dead by Daylight did, I'm gonna give myself like 60 seconds to ramble on about this. So it's the 10th anniversary event of Dead by Daylight, and they announced a reveal stream, which everyone assumed it was going to be like a regular thing, that they were going to do a reasonably length, like 15-20 minute stream to chat about and reveal the new killer or survivor, chapter, whatever, that they were going to add into the game, which was going to be great and spectacular for the 10th anniversary, and everyone assumed, you know, that was going to be what happened. It was at like 8 o'clock Central last night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and so everyone, like tens of thousands of people tune in expecting this, only to be met with a, like, what seemed at first like a still image, but was just an unmoving video, really, of a cabin in the middle of the woods with fuck all happening. Like, once in a while, like, it was fucking stupid. Like, a dude on a bike would go by, or you'd hear some bird sounds. Like, maybe once every 45 minutes, they would put in, like, a 2 seconds of a glitch filter. It was crazy. But, like, people went in anticipating, like, a reasonably lengthed reveal. Not a multi-hour thing of just sitting there staring at basically nothing. Okay, I'm past the 60 seconds. I'm gonna extend that for just a bit. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I gotta yap. And so, like, people were up in the middle of the night because this was happening at nighttime, and streamers who, like, focused Dead by Daylight were live streaming it, expecting to have the reveal, and they were just suddenly caught off guard with, like, trying to figure what to do while staring at this nothing cabin. And so, yeah, it was very frustrating and disappointing. It was like going to a doctor's appointment, like you have this thing scheduled and you expect to, you know, happen in a timely manner, but then being told to, like, sit in the waiting room for several hours. It was really bad. I'm trying to multitask. Okay, there we go. We'll slip back over here to this screen while I'm yipping and yapping. Anyway, so yeah, 13 hours go by because ha 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 ha, and it turns out the reveal, the new killer is Jason from Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th, 13 hours. That's like the whole thing. But it was so frustrating how they went about it specifically, and it was not so swell. In fact, I would go as far as to say it was very poorly planned. And, like, I think, in my personal opinion, what they should have done instead of just treating it like, you know, a regular stream that people show up to at a specific time, than to have everyone just fucking wait for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, they should have shadow dropped the stream. Like, people would have realized that they went live. They were live on Twitch and on YouTube. And then they were also, like, every few hours at the top of the hour posting, like, teaser images and videos, so people could have, like, congregated into, like, stream chats and then other socials like Reddit and Twitter and, like, Discord and this and that, trying to be like, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? Let's figure this out. We don't know what's happening, but, you know, let's try to put these pieces together. It's like fucking Scott Cawthon and FNAF. Like, you don't just announce something and then leave people waiting for an obscene amount of time. That's so bad and inconsiderate. Like, it's so bad. So yeah, I think they should have just shadow dropped the stream and let people just kind of do their own thing from there, whether they wanted to participate or not. Instead of just, you know, like I said, like, literally, I think it was like 50,000 people. That's 50,000 people sitting around expecting something to happen, but just left staring at a cabin for 13 hours. Like, obviously, after, like, a little while, a lot of people, myself included, just fucking gave up and went to bed. 'Cause it was in the middle of the night. Oh, it's fucking crazy. Oh. And also, I think they should have, like, started the stream, like, early in the morning, US time. Like, 3 a.m. So, like, that would have also made it, like, a kind of slower to start. You know, because obviously not as many people would be up then, but, you know, with, like, a shadow drop, then more people, like, trickle in. People, like, catch up as the 13 hours go by. You know, and that sort of thing. Anyway, I could rant about this for a while. Anyway, TLDR, 10th anniversary reveal, with Jason as the new killer, literally at the last, like, 2 minutes. The camera suddenly comes into motion, goes into the cabin, and is revealed to be the point of view of Jason as he preps for the murderings or something. So that was the big reveal. And I think they fumbled it horribly with how they approached it. And it was frustrating and disappointing. So very on par with behavior. Anyway, so, with all that out of the way... We're going to do some co-working today because that's about all I can manage for today. We're going to be watching, probably finishing a 4-hour-long video, which I think is going to be the longest we've done so far for co-working streams. Like, we've watched multiple videos in one stream that, like, add up to 4 hours, but this is the first, like, girthy video I think that we will be watching so far. But the video we are watching is The Spectacular Failure of the Star Wars Hotel by Jenny Nicholson. Please support the creators of the content we are watching by watching the videos in their entirety on the proper channels of the creators, without my commentary, without, like, these stupid fuck-ass filters we're putting over it, which we use in order to prevent any copyright shenanigans from either the creators of the content whose videos we are watching, or more likely is possible, from the media, music, TV shows, like movies, whatever they may be showing in their videos. So that's why, things are what they are. Side note, our little Spirit City lo-fi scene over here, I do have the kitchen DLC. I want to get the Enchanted Garden DLC. I think that's next on the list I want to get. That's the most recent one. I'm also interested in the train one, but the garden one specifically, I don't have either of those yet. But I think maybe whenever the next Steam sale happens, I do want to get the garden one. And I change up my little pet doodly guy every time, but this guy in particular, he's so, let me show him off proper here. Let me scoot my to-do list here up. Because he's like in the kitchen version, like originally he's just like a little yarn spider, which is cute and fine. But with the kitchen DLC, he's like a little frosted cinnamon bun. It is so cute, and I love him, and he's adorable. Like, there are other colorings, but I think for spring, the pink one is currently more appropriate. And then being in the kitchen, he's going back and forth with his little whisk at the bowl, and I love him. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna be working on some things, because that's what I can manage for today. I apologize, like I said, I have not been at 100% for a good while, but it's, like I said, it's largely due to sleep inconsistencies, which hopefully will be resolved within the next week or two, because Ben's work schedule is supposed to be changing. We don't know exactly when. It was supposed to be next week, but it's looking like that's potentially going to be pushed back just a little bit. So we'll see. Tomorrow, the current plan is, at minimum, we're still going to be playing Ultimate Modded Stardew Valley. Maybe beforehand we might do a little Clair Obscur, because today, originally the sole plan was date everything, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a little Clair Obscur first, but then I woke up, and I was just like, yeah, no, I can't. Simply cannot manage all that much today. So this is what's happening. So I appreciate y'all's patience. And anyway, let's dive in to the content.
So on March 1st, 2022, the Walt Disney Company opened their newest
Closed captions. I didn't forget.
Experiment in themed entertainment, an immersive,
kind of
multi-day adventure set in the Star Wars universe. When this was first announced, everybody just called it the Star Wars Hotel. Disney World has a lot of themed hotels. Safari-themed hotel, New Orleans-themed hotel, amusement park-themed hotel. So people were like, okay, they're building another one, and this time the theme is Star Wars. But this project was never intended to be like Disney's other hotels. If you stay at the amusement park-themed hotel, you're supposed to enjoy the ambiance while you're there, but you're expected to leave and spend 90% of the day outside at the actual amusement parks. Meanwhile, the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser was pitched as an all-inclusive resort, a landlocked cruise. Aside from a brief excursion into the Star Wars-themed section of Hollywood Studios, you're not meant to leave the building. You wouldn't pick the length of your stay, it's always 2 nights, 2 days, and you're provided with a trip itinerary which blocks out pretty much everything, almost down to the minute. You're better off thinking of it as a summer camp. Space camp, if you like. Or if you're sort of nerdy, you can think of it as LARP, live-action roleplay. You aren't just doing Star Wars-themed activities, you're supposed to feel like you're in the Star Wars universe. Everything is themed to look like you're on a spaceship, the common areas are populated by character actors, and you're encouraged to dress up and create a character as you're guided through a storyline. It would be Disney's most unique, most ambitious, and most immersive offering yet. And it would also go out of business. Yeah, on May 19th, 2023, Disney announced they would be calling it quits that September. Only 18 months after the hotel's grand opening, it would close forever. And I went to...
Side note, I've never been the biggest Star Wars fan. Like, I don't hate it. Like, I've watched the original trilogy, and I can appreciate, like, okay, yeah, this was very, like, groundbreaking for its time, and, like, objectively, I can appreciate, like, you know, how well it's made and innovative and this and that. But sci-fi has never been one of my biggest things, you know? So, just kind of like a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm just largely, with this particular video, other than the fact that I just love and adore Jenny Nicholson and every single thing she does, this is one of those where I'm like, yeah, I'm not super into the subject matter itself. I'm just here for the drama.
This hotel. So this video, which was initially just meant to be a deep dive of the hotel and a review.
Also, I don't know if this is a hot take. Maybe it is. But, like, y'all know I'm, like, a good bit into Disney. Star Wars should never, ever, ever have been integrated into Disney media. Is that controversial to say? Like, I don't know. I feel like that should have been its completely separate thing. Like, Star Wars existed for a long time before Disney bought it. It should have, like, even when Disney made the purchase, it should have continued existing, like, as its own separate thing. Star Wars Land within the Disney parks and all that, like, that's weird and I don't like it. That's my personal take. Anyway.
Has instead become a kind of eulogy and a detailed archive of what the hotel was actually like. And together, we will discover why it went out of business. That might sound daunting, but don't worry, I have organized it into an internet-friendly numbered list. So join me on this adventure. By the end, you'll feel like you were
Jenny
there too.
and her numbered list.
And also, I think, feel other emotions. Part 1. Why have they done this? I think immersion has been a prevailing buzzword in theme park marketing for at least a decade now.
I think this time we've really raised the level of immersion.
The immersion into the Pacific Northwest is absolutely incredible.
no.
Guests will be able to
Immersion.
explore even more immersive worlds.
Disney Cruise Line ships have immersive activities.
The first immersive storyland that we built at Disney Hollywood
And
Studios.
this, of course, is also one of my hyperfixation videos that I've watched numerous times, just like the H Bomber Guy videos.
In the experience.
And
So this is not new to me.
In a world of fantasy.
The majority of
world.
videos we watch for
Immersive.
co-working streams
So
are not, but
immersive.
just,
It's
you know.
incredible. I mean, it's so immersive.
The most immersive. The most immersive.
The most immersive.
The Wizarding World of Harry Potter was pitched as immersive because everything looks like the set of the movie, they have themed food, and you can buy wizard robes and wear them around. Pandora, the World of Avatar was pitched as immersive because everything looks like the animation from the movie, they have themed food, and you can buy Avatar ears and wear them around. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was pitched as immersive because it doesn't look like any particular movie, they have themed food, and you can buy Jedi robes, but you're not allowed to wear them inside the theme park. Yeah, that one kind of stumbled across the finish line. Anyway, all of that is what you might call immersive. But I would also call it just a theme park. That's the definition of a theme park, a themed environment with rides. Compare this to something like a Six Flags, where it's like a crumbling gas station with roller coasters out back, and one of the roller coasters has a Superman logo on it. I can never help it, I'm always attacking Six Flags unprovoked. Six Flags I would call an amusement park and not even a theme park if I was in charge of the terminology, because theme parks are themed. I love that about them, but that's not revolutionary. That's just what they've always been. Disney has had these design principles forever. They just used other synonyms for immersion. It was called realism, maybe feeling transported, maybe escapism, maybe even this plaque that Walt Disney installed at the entrance to Disneyland when he built it. He didn't know about the word immersion yet, but if he had, it would probably be the only word on there. I mean, Pandora, the World of Avatar isn't more immersive than Disneyland's Adventureland. If I go to Adventureland, it looks like I'm at a jungle outpost. I can eat themed food, and I can buy a safari helmet and wear it around. I've never seen anyone do that, but I have seen them for sale, so it's possible. Sure, Pandora has physically larger and grander set pieces, and it emulates a landscape more foreign to us, but that's in part because Pandora was built in 2017 with a budget of $500 million. Adventureland was built in 1955, and I'm pretty sure Walt Disney just paid the construction guys in soda pop and grilled cheese sandwiches. But at their core, the two lands are the same in that the immersion is purely aesthetic. There's no one specific narrative to be told. Nobody is really in character. The employees in Pandora may refer to the film Avatar as the documentary, but they're not going to speak fluent Na'vi back to me, no matter how angrily I shouted at them. So the word immersion is fairly new to the scene, but the practice isn't. But
This is what I love about Jenny Nicholson. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we haven't watched any of her videos yet for any co-working streams, but like whenever she makes a video on a topic, she is so thoroughly, aggressively interested in it, in the particular topic she's talking about, and I love that. That's so much a vibe, and I appreciate it so very much. Like I said, I adore Jenny Nicholson and pretty much everything she does. She can more or less do no wrong in my eyes.
With competing parks building more and more detailed environments, we see the word immersion applied to basically everything as a one-word way to communicate that. And with this heavy marketing emphasis on immersion, it's no wonder that companies wanted to take it further.
This is the next phase. This is the next level of immersive storytelling, everything in the immersive field we've been dreaming of.
And once you've done themed environments, themed food, themed clothing, the only way to take it further is to move all the way into LARP. But an experience of this kind had never been offered by any theme park company before. The last thing you want is for your product to alienate the Thompsons from Iowa who love to spend money on Disney vacations but have never stepped foot inside a board game store. And while nerds are pretty aware of what LARP is, most normies have either not heard of it or have never considered it something they might enjoy. In fact, to most non-theater kids, the prospect seems kind of mortifying. It would take a savvy marketing team to pitch this to the average consumer. Part 2. The marketing. The marketing was extremely bad. The hotel concept was first accidentally
Damn,
leaked
Jenny,
in
tell us how
April
you really feel.
2017. Disney had contracted a third-party survey company called Swagbucks to try to gauge interest for an immersive Star Wars experience. As with every theme park industry survey, the content was immediately posted to multiple fan sites, so the secret was out.
And tonight, only Eyewitness News has learned of what may be one of the biggest talkers yet. Channel 9 anchor Jamie Holmes got a hold of a survey that has been sent out, wanting to know if fans would be interested in an entire Star Wars themed hotel.
The survey wants to know if fans would be interested in a Star Wars boutique hotel where you would spend 2 nights in a completely immersive Star Wars experience. The survey includes renderings like this, where the resort looks like a spacecraft, and rooms that have an interactive view out the virtual window on the Star Wars galaxy.
The survey specifically teased a multi-day experience with character performers, secret missions, a pool, a fitness area, robot butlers. The survey asked whether guests would be willing to pay $900 to $1,000 per person for such an experience. Initially, nobody was sure whether this was just a distant idea or if Disney was actually serious about it. But just 3 months later at the 2017 D23 Expo, CEO Bob Chapek got up on stage and clumsily and uncharismatically announced it to the world.
So today, I am thrilled to confirm that we are working on our most experiential concept ever. It combines a luxury resort with an immersion in an authentic Star Wars environment.
Initially, I remember the response being generally positive, but sort of muted. Like, people were curious what this would entail, but with just a couple of pieces of early concept art and vague marketing phrases like, be immersed in your own Star Wars adventure, it was just too early to really even understand what it was. I mean, Disney will literally call a pizza parlor immersive, so that doesn't mean much. These days, a lot of the stuff they announce at D23 doesn't even end up getting built, so I understand why the response was a little subdued. But at the next D23 Expo in 2019, things were more concretely taking shape. It appeared the hotel was actually happening, and we got more of an outline of what it would entail. The audience gets to see some cool concept art of an arrival terminal. We'll put a pin in that. We're told about space windows, interactivity, branching story paths.
It is an opportunity to live your multi-day story as it unfolds and interweaves with the crew, other passengers, and those Star Wars characters.
At this point, the public's interest was piqued, but overall, there just wasn't enough information to know what to make of it. Okay, so what's next? Well, it's kind of weird, but the next info about the hotel they dropped was just showing us that they made this lightsaber.
Light, darkness, a balance.
They made a lot of commotion about this special lightsaber. See, it looks like one of those fancy effects lightsabers, but it actually comes out of the handle like the ones in the movies. And everybody was like, wow, we can buy that? And they were like, well, no, you can look at it exclusively on the Galactic Star Cruiser. Which, that's a little less exciting, right? If I just wanted to look at a convincing lightsaber, I could already do that by watching the film, Star Wars. I want to touch, but I can see why I can't touch it. People found the patent, and it basically works like an extendable tape.
That's become, sort of by accident, sort of on purpose, one of my catchphrases, in a sense. Like, in recent times, whenever, like, I stumble across something, across a... That's all, folks. Let me try that again. Sleep deprivation is really getting to me. Whenever I stumble across something in a game I can't interact with, more often than not, I'll just be like, I want to touch. Anyway, thank you, Jenny, for that gold nugget of a line to just repeat all the time and annoy my audience with.
measure with a spool of LED gamer lights glued onto it. It could never hold up to rough housing from a kid, and I also get the impression that it can't retract in an elegant way. Like maybe they have to take it apart and re-spool it or something. You can see everyone that does handle it acts like it's going to fall apart at any minute. When Josh D'Amaro shows it off at D23, he doesn't swish it around, he won't even gesticulate while he's holding it. He just holds it perfectly upright with both hands and then gingerly passes it off to his assistant, just like in the movies. In my opinion, it was monumentally stupid of them to advertise this ahead of time. I think it's the kind of parlor trick that's more dazzling if you aren't expecting it, and it's such a limited trick, right? Like, this thing we see in the ad and at the expo, that's the whole thing the lightsaber does, and now we've seen it. I think this would have gotten better online buzz if they'd saved it as a surprise for opening weekend. But to be honest, they might have showcased this out of desperation. It certainly seems like for several expos they haven't had much to announce. On August 4th, 2021, Star Cruiser releases their first real ad.
For the first time, it's real. We've traveled to the far reaches of the galaxy. We got recruited by the Resistance. And now we're ready.
Come on, Dad! We gotta go save the ship.
No. We're gonna save the galaxy.
So that was pretty vague, but it at least communicated a few things. You see a family is on a spaceship, they've met a few people in alien makeup, and got to do some kind of resistance mission. It's a decent teaser, I guess. None of the characters in this ad will actually appear in the finished product, and you can tell from the way they shot it that they haven't completed any of the building interiors. But I think it's supposed to be more of a proof of concept. Unfortunately, on the same day they dropped this ad, Disney also dropped the sample pricing for the experience, and here's some foreshadowing for you. The news was not well received. People had already been skeptical about this project, and Disney being Disney, there was already a lot of speculation that it would cost a lot. But it actually cost a lot. And that'll be in our next chapter. But for now, let's just say it was expensive. From this point on, marketing will be fighting an uphill battle to start any positive conversation about the Galactic Star Cruiser, because now all anyone wants to talk about is the price tag. It isn't until November of that year that we get our next substantial info drop. In this promotional video, executive Josh D'Amaro walks over to the Star Cruiser to demo it. For the life of me, I cannot understand why they have this shot of him strolling in from outside. It's so unimmersive. And then they fade to him standing in the lightsaber training pod, and it looks so sad and featureless.
We have been working on this experience to have a whole brand new way for our guests to experience this ancient art of the lightsaber.
During normal operation, this room has ambient lighting, but here they've overlit it and made it look very cheap.
This looks unbelievable.
So the important context is that this was our first real look at what you would do on the Star Cruiser. People now knew what it cost, but not exactly what it was offering. A frankly insane order in which to release information. So for this video, Josh is going to demo the exclusive lightsaber training experience.
Oh. All right, so I'm standing right here,
right there.
facing
You're
here.
face off against the remote.
Okay, so it looks bad. We can all see that it looks bad. He's moving so slowly, and I'm so secondhand embarrassed about how rigidly he's moving. Like, why is he moving his torso and not his arms? Why is it like that? Again, if they're marketing an immersive experience, why are they doing such unimmersive showcases? Why not have kids do the lightsaber experience and have everybody in costume and shoot and edit it to look a little more dynamic? Why do they think we want to see an executive trying it? I'm giving that ad a thumbs down. But let's move on to the next big promo video, released just a couple weeks later. Disney has pulled out all the stops for this one. They've got their most charismatic Imagineer giving a tour of the ship. They've got an actor from one of their ABC sitcoms here to try it out.
Hello there.
I'm super excited to see what you and your team created.
We cannot wait to have you aboard because Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is a first of its kind vacation experience where you get to spend 2 days and 2 nights living out your very own Star Wars story.
Oh, I'm just too excited. We gotta go inside.
This is my favorite piece of marketing material. The ship looks empty and lifeless, like when you're in a mall past closing time. The delivery is stilted. The editing is supremely awkward. They constantly sound like they're being cut off.
It's like I'm walking straight into a Star Wars movie.
Except it's not a movie, right? You get to be in the middle of it all and in the middle of the action.
And then there's activities you can do on here.
Yeah, there are activities on board the ship.
Actor Sean Giambroni looks briefly at the bridge, sends the ship into light speed.
Punch it!
And then he wanders away from his tour into this half-empty lounge where a Twi'lek singer sings at him.
What's going on? I just popped through that door and I have no idea.
Look above and see the world slowly emerge before your eyes.
And once we're shown this character, the ad just kind of becomes a short music video. Like, this is not presented from the perspective of the sitcom actor as he marvels at this new world. The camera takes us physically away from him to a perfectly centered shot of the alien singer. He stumbles back out into the hallway. Was that all a dream? What does it mean? And the ad ends there. I can't even imagine what they were thinking with this one. Okay, first, let me do a compliment sandwich. I theoretically like this as theme park marketing material. Instead of just giving us practical information, they decided to do a little skit, which is always better. And I, for one, love Sean Giambroni's G. Willikers performance here. It's like if they got Mickey Rooney to do the ad. To me, someone who's watched a lot of vintage theme park promotional materials, this all feels charmingly dorky and sort of retro. But ask yourself, is dorky and retro really what you're going for when you're promoting an infamously expensive, ostensibly groundbreaking experience? A project that already has a lot of naysayers? I would think you'd want to make it look as cool as possible. Really put your best foot forward. Not to mention, this video conveys next to nothing about what you actually do on the Star Cruiser. The Disney marketing department seems to think saying punch it is enough of a selling point for an attraction, and I think they're mistaken about that. The building doesn't even come across well because all the sets are overlit and underpopulated. They look cheap. Furthermore, why would you choose to do an ad that's centered around the fact that there's a singer? I think this character is a cool bit of world building, and a live singer does make a restaurant feel more expensive, but surely they didn't think that this would be the main selling point of a Star Wars roleplay experience. The performance itself is awkward, like it's not even a performance venue, she's just standing in the middle.
Is today just like the day of bad marketing? I didn't even think about that when I started this. It's like for the frickin' Dead by Daylight thing, which I've gone on about plenty, so I will not vent about that anymore, but then this as well. That's my bad.
Middle of a small lounge between tables, singing loudly to like maybe 10 people. And she's not even doing a lounge singer song, which might have helped the vibe. She's just doing like a human pop song. It keeps cutting to the other patrons of the bar and they're just kind of bobbing their heads in polite disinterest. If you're doing a skit anyway, why have the weird framing narrative where Sean Giambroni walks into a fake hotel to speak with an Imagineer? Why not just shoot a little skit where he's already living in the story of the hotel? They're trying to hook us on the idea that this will be an out-of-this-world adventure, but Sean's whole adventure was that he briefly saw a woman singing and she looked unusual. Anyway, this ad was poorly received and widely mocked. Allegedly, hotel dates which had previously been fully booked suddenly became available in the week following the ad. That would suggest that some people found the ad so discouraging that they went out of their way to cancel existing reservations. And I think these reports must have been true because within the week, Disney deleted this ad from all platforms. Yikes. If you're wondering how Disney tried to follow that, the answer is that they didn't. That ad went over so badly that I guess they just completely gave up on shooting new promotional material for the Star Cruiser. New Twitter promos would pop up, but they would just be stills of concept art or recuts of that first teaser ad supplemented with a little bit of new footage. To emphasize the choose your own adventure aspect of the experience, they would add in clips of each story path. So they had a Jedi ad, a smuggler ad, and they had an ad about how you can sell Chewbacca out to the First Order and get him thrown in jail, which was so poorly received that Disney would later delete it from all platforms. It's weird that that happened twice. The thing about these ads is, anyone with a functioning brain sees this footage and is like, that feels improbable. Logistically, I doubt I'll be doing a solo run through a whole satisfying, movie-accurate adventure. But then, if my visit will look nothing like these ads, what will it look like? A question Disney seemed unable or unwilling to answer. Instead, they just kept showcasing the same limited roster of activities they'd already told us about. Like Good Morning America did a promotional segment, and surprise, it's pushing buttons on the bridge, it's the lightsaber game again, a chance to meet Chewbacca, which you can already do in Disneyland, and for some reason they let Bob Chapek wriggle out of his den and fumble his way through an interview. Once again, no real insight into the choose your own adventure aspect, despite it being the biggest selling point of the hotel. So I've pretty much covered all the ads in intended for the general public, but since I'm a hardcore theme park fan, I did personally try to delve a little deeper. So through all this, I was watching all of Disney's social media channels, and they posted a few panels with their Imagineers. Maybe it's unfair to lump these in with the ads since they're only intended for nerds, but they did give me a little more info about what you do in the gameplay.
There might be someone that you help stow away. There might be someone that you help get thrown in a brig, right? Like,
Or break out.
Or break out of the brig, right? There could be a galactic superstar who entertains you on the first night, but then also tasks you with helping her smuggle something.
Nice. Finally, we get a concrete example. I love that.
Or you might help someone get their luggage on board without somebody noticing. You never know.
Okay, I'm definitely getting the idea that we're going to smuggle luggage at some point.
I think about the fact that you might meet one of our characters. You might meet one of them on the bridge. You might meet them on a screen first. Then you help them board. Then you smuggle their luggage.
Okay, a lot of smuggling luggage, perhaps.
Then they appear on the ship.
Physically, they walk into the room
while you're smuggling their luggage on board.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Then you see them later. They send you a message saying, thanks for your help with the luggage.
As the opening date approached, Disney, of course, pivoted to influencer marketing. And in my opinion, they managed to fumble this too. From what I saw, most of the people they invited were TikTokers who just stood in the atrium and did viral dances. Why would seeing the grown-up dancing girl from High School Musical dancing in the atrium make me want to book this trip unless I also planned on dancing in the atrium? Which, statistically, I don't. I feel like even if that did successfully pique the interest of their audience, a lot of these people's fans are late high school and early college students who don't have the financial flexibility to book the Star Cruiser even if they want to. Besides, if all you're looking for is an attractive backdrop for photos and dances, you could just go trample around in the Super Bloom or book any resort with an infinity pool. I think a more realistic demographic would have been to focus on Comic-Con types, older nerds who have grown-up jobs and are already familiar with role-playing. So I think they would have been better off mixing in big fish from the smaller ponds of LARP, cosplay, probably D&D podcasts. I know these are marginally more obscure hobbies, but a lot of money is spent on them every year. And here's another general issue I've always had with Disney influencer marketing: naming conventions. In the olden days, Disney would call stuff by fairly natural, simple names. Tomorrowland, Space Mountain. The Alice in Wonderland ride is called Alice in Wonderland. They don't do that anymore. I think it's for copyright reasons or for search engine optimization, but it's so awkward. Now Disney products are called things like The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So you end up with all these products which, colloquially, nobody calls by their actual registered names. People say Star Wars Land. They say the Star Wars Hotel. People say, I want to ride the Cars ride. They don't say, I want to ride Radiator Springs Racers. And the big problem here is, if you make contracts with influencers and you require them to call your products by the full legal names, they're going to sound like you're paying them. Imagine if I told you, I went to Disney World and saw Star Wars Land. It was pretty fun. I saw the Star Wars bar and I went on the Millennium Falcon ride. Now imagine if I told you, this summer I got to experience Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I loved seeing Oga's Cantina and blasting off on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Which one do you believe more? And yet Disney's marketing team is absolutely allergic to just letting people call things by their casual nicknames. And I think it makes all media they produce, host, and sponsor sound extremely insincere. This problem is especially present in this one marketing product I found, the Plan Disney podcast. I highly recommend giving this podcast a watch sometime, by which I mean it is fascinatingly bad. Basically, on this podcast, Disney brings in a rotating cast of real fans and social media personalities to give trip reports and offer advice to fellow guests. The podcast isn't secretive about being produced by Disney. It's shot inside the theme parks. They disclose that their panelists are compensated. So with that context, I don't think it's weird that the panelists would only have good things to say about Disney World. But what I do think is weird is the way they talk.
Do you have anything that's coming up that's exciting you about Disney destinations?
Okay, I am very excited. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And my friend and fellow panelist was recently on the maiden voyage of Galactic Star Cruiser over at Walt Disney World Resort. I was just talking to her. She said that it's like being the main character in your own Star Wars story.
All of the terminology is so rigidly corporate. Half the time the hosts are literally reading off a prompter, and the rest of the time you can tell they've been briefed on the questions and prepared their answers ahead of time.
Guys, we cannot forget the ultimate Star Wars fans, right? I mean, what
would be more intense than a 2-day stay at the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser?
Yes.
We're talking about an immersive experience.
And like, why? Disney has so many fans that will uncritically celebrate their products without getting paid, so why not just let them use their own words? Why make your own fake podcast in the first place? Nobody's watching this except me, and I'm only watching it as performance art.
After you check in, you jump into a launch pod.
Okay.
And in my opinion, this is when the adventure really begins.
It never used to be like this. Why does corporate mandate that they talk about the products this way? Why is all this marketing so bad? Are they really so out of touch? Could they be so naive? In all fairness, I don't envy the marketing team for Star Cruiser. This experience is clearly intended to be more than the sum of its parts. A collection of fairly pedestrian activities, dressed up with clever showmanship, and put together in a high enough quantity that the overall experience will dazzle you. So how do you market something like that? Showing any one activity in isolation will look bad because it's not exciting enough on its own, but showing all the activities will ruin the product because it relies heavily on surprises. What's worse, this level of immersive activity has only been attempted by theme parks a handful of times before and has no real basis for comparison. They could compare it to LARP, but we've already covered how many normal people don't fully understand what that is. I'm sure everybody watching this video does, you freaks, but many people don't. I think Disney might have been better off comparing it to living in a video game, but maybe they knew that would have been overselling it. I can't really think of any video game that plays the way Star Cruiser does. We'll talk about that later. It might have been better to compare it to a murder mystery dinner, but those don't usually make you think of luxury and never before seen immersion. So instead, Disney compared it to nothing. They relied on their brand identity and loyal customer base to essentially buy a mystery box. They showed almost nothing of what the experience would entail. They defaulted to bloated marketing language like live your Star Wars story, step into the world of Star Wars, immerse yourself in a one-of-a-kind adventure. And, as I already foreshadowed, there was one more significant complication. Part 3, the cost. So let's break this down. For our 2-person cabin, the total came to $6,066.88. So that's $3,033.44 per person. The official website quoted $4,800 for a 2-person cabin, so that's what a lot of people repeat when they're discussing pricing. But really, that's just the lowest possible price, so it's not really a reliable figure. Unlike other hotels, the room was not a flat rate, so the price went up for each person added to the booking, but it went up by smaller increments for each one. I'm just making up these numbers, but for instance, it's possible that when I went, if I had put 4 people in my cabin, it would have cost something like $7,500, but because that's now being split 4 ways, the cost per person would go down. I'm sorry if this sounds confusing, it is confusing. This was made more complicated by the lack of transparency on price points. To get a quote, you already had to know your number of travelers and all their names, you had to have a weekend in mind, and then you would call them on the phone, there was usually a long queue before you talked to someone, and then, assuming your ideal week happened to be available, the agent would tell you a price. I didn't have the freedom of clicking around on a digital calendar looking for the cheapest day. I didn't play with number of guests to see how much that would raise or lower the cost. They made it so you had to move pretty far into the booking process before you could get a quote. So because of this, I can't really guess an average or median price point for any given trip. When Disney said it was possible to book a 2-person room for $4,800, that might have just meant that there was a single day each year that it cost that little. The cabin might have averaged a $5,500 price tag or an $8,000 price tag. If you were serious about going, you just had to cold call them and find out. So all this to say, since I paid for my own trip and I have my invoice and I know exactly what I paid, I'm going to be running my cost analysis based on my own experience. So, $6,066.88. For 2 people. This didn't include our flights to Florida, obviously, and it also didn't include transportation from the airport. I just mentioned that because Disney World used to offer free airport shuttles to hotel guests, and they decided to take that away in 2021 out of stinginess, I guess, if we're being honest. So the prices I'm discussing only covered me from the moment I arrived at the Star Cruiser. Now, let's think value for your time. How many hours of entertainment are you getting for that price? According to the sample itinerary on the website, you check in at 1 p.m. on day 1 and check out at 10 a.m. on day 3, but obviously I'm not going to include the hours I spent sleeping and showering in the value of the experience. You can see on the schedule that there's a certain time each night when you're essentially dismissed to go to bed, at which point exciting things will pause. I'm not going to be super pedantic and cut out things like meal times because after all, some of those included entertainment. I'm also not going to bother cutting out the 10-minute gaps in the sample itinerary when they have you walking from place to place. Heck, I'll even be generous and include breakfast and the shuttle back to Earth on checkout day as entertainment hours. So as you can see, day 1 gives us 7 hours and 45 minutes of entertainment time. Day 2 is going to be a 16-hour day. That sounds exhausting. And day 3 offers just 1 hour and 30 minutes. That gives us a grand total of 25 hours and 15 minutes of entertainment time. Once again, that per person cost was $3,033.44 divided by 25.25 hours equals $120.14 per person per hour of entertainment, or about $2 per person per minute. Better not sleep in, kids. I should also clarify that I paid for the rock bottom, no frills package. There were multiple available add-ons which I did not buy. Actually, I might have bought some of them, but they were not mentioned to me when I booked, so I didn't know they existed until it was too late. At the time I was booking our spot, the hotel had not yet opened to the public, so a lot of information was still being gate-kept, and it was just kind of expected that you would know what to ask for, but obviously I didn't. To be honest, that entire process was extremely confusing and frustrating and stressful. So we booked the standard room, which was the cheapest and the smallest, but there were actually options for 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom suites. The website didn't even list sample prices for these, but one fan blog took one for the team and called about booking the largest suite on a random day in September, and they were quoted a price of over $12,000. There were also less extravagant add-ons. For $30 per person, I could have upgraded our dinner seating to the captain's table experience, and again, I didn't know that existed when I booked, so I didn't get to book it, and I sure wish I had. We'll get to that. The only add-on I did pay for was the Memory Maker. This was the one thing they did recommend to me. Basically, when I was booking, they said there would be a bunch of roaming photographers on the ship, taking both candid and posed photos of guests. The Memory Maker bundle was $169, and it would allow unlimited free downloads of those photos. I correctly predicted that I would be recording video the whole time and fail to get any photos of myself, so I bought it. However, after I bought it, and just a few weeks before my trip, they rolled out another different add-on where you could buy a private photo shoot for 30 minutes for $399. And from what I can tell, once Disney rolled out this more expensive private photo session, they just reassigned all the photographers who would have been roaming the ship to do the private shoots instead because it made more money. So what I'm saying is that I paid the $169 for Memory Maker, and we didn't see any photographers the entire trip except for the ones actively engaged in private photo shoots. So I just kind of lit that money on fire, and I have pretty much no photos of my trip, but whatever. This didn't sit right with me, and I did like a sanity check on some fan groups and found out that the same thing had happened to a bunch of people where they just saw no photographers the whole time. So I actually called and emailed a couple different departments at Disney asking for a refund and wasn't able to get one. They just said no. But then I complained on my Twitter account, which has a lot of followers, and suddenly they personally called me and gave me my refund. They didn't even ask for my phone number. Like, someone at Disney did the legwork to go into the database, look up my booking info, and then find my phone number and call me within like a day of the tweet going out. And the person who called me was really nice, and I'm thankful that he cared to resolve it. But I just always feel very cynical when I try to resolve issues through the appropriate channels available to all customers, and nobody will help me until they find out I'm an influencer. I spoke with several other guests who got Memory Maker and had the exact same problems as me, and they never got refunds. Another hidden cost was that Disney...
That's gotta be so infuriating. Like, I've worked in customer service related jobs before, and I always say it's one of those things where I try so very hard to be patient with customer service people because I know, like, the person that I'm directly speaking to, like, I understand thoroughly well that, you know, they don't dictate policies, you know, they're abiding by rules that they have no say in typically and all that good stuff. But it's still, like, that's gotta be one of those things where it's like, yeah, I would struggle to not lose my patience. Like, for something that was so thoroughly fumbled. Like, you pay so much for this extra thing on top of an already super expensive thing, and you're basically just given the middle finger when you don't get anything at all for this thing you paid for. That just sucks. I feel like, I don't know. Like, I've only been to a Disney park a couple times. I went to Disney World once when I was like 9, and then Disneyland, Ben and I went to back in like 2018, I want to say. And they were both good experiences. But I don't know, it's like, especially in recent years, it feels like the more I hear about Disney, the less appealing the parks are these days. And it's just, and that sucks because y'all know I really like Disney. So that's, it's unfortunate, and I hate it, and I wish they would just, do better. Do fucking better, Disney. Damn.
Recommended Star Cruiser guests arrive 1 day before their booking date. Real cruises, the ones that are on boats, also recommend this because in both cases time is of the essence and you don't want your whole trip ruined because of a flight delay. Remember, $2 per person per minute, so we're not showing up late. But of course, this additional night in Florida is just another bonus expense for out-of-town guests. One thing that was included in the Star Cruiser price was admission to the theme park for up to 7 hours, and there were several suggested add-ons for that block of time, but those cost extra. You could book lightsaber building for $220, droid building for $100, or reserve a table at Oga's Cantina, food and drinks not included. For all of the above optional add-ons I've listed, there was not enough availability for every guest at the hotel to get them, even if everybody was interested in booking every single one. They were all pretty limited in quantity, and first come, first serve, and you had to know to book them. I guess some people got emails about these things, but because of a glitch, like half the people who booked just didn't get them. I was one of those. And even if everyone had known, they would have had to fight over these things, so it was kind of baked into the model that although all trips were expensive, the bulk of the trips would inherently be inferior in some way. Which brings me to my next point. Part 4, Spirit Airlines in Space. In the United States, we have an airline called Spirit Airlines. Everybody makes fun of it, and it's just kind of universally acknowledged that this is the cheap, awful airline that you only fly on if...
R.I.P. Spirit Airlines. Oh no. I completely forgot about this portion of the video. Oh shit, dude. Oh no. Yeah, they filed for bankruptcy like not that long ago, like a month-ish, like a month and a half. So fairly recently. Yeah, they just went completely out of business. And then there was also a whole thing where like a former employee of Spirit Airlines who now spontaneously lost their job. This is only like the most mildly related if you really squint at it. But this woman, she reached out to James Charles, the beauty influencer who has done some inappropriate things with children, allegedly. To just like, hey, I have a GoFundMe if you wouldn't mind helping out, like donating or sharing the link or something. And he was just the most entitled, pretentious asshole about it, and then doubled down in a follow-up video, but then he got thoroughly shat on, so he deleted both of those. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I should have known better. Anyway, fuck James Charles.
You have no other choice. Basically how Spirit's business model works is their base ticket cost is insanely low. It's usually about half the price of the other airlines, but that half price ticket is going to be the worst flight of your life in the tiniest chair you've ever sat in, bringing nothing with you but the clothes on your back. This is because Spirit makes every possible amenity cost extra. Diet Coke costs extra, the little bags of pretzels cost extra, legroom costs extra, bags cost extra, even carry-on bags, even a purse. I actually don't think flying Spirit is a bad way to fly. If you pay for the Diet Coke and the extra legroom and the carry-on luggage, it just becomes a normal flight, just like you'd experience on any other airline. And with all that stuff added on, you're not ultimately paying more than another airline, you're usually paying around the same amount. So in a practical sense, Spirit is exactly the same as every other airline, they just present the prices in a different way up front. So, why does everybody hate Spirit? Because of the psychology of it. Because you see that initial price, and then for each amenity you're forced to add along the way to get back to that baseline service you're used to, each thing the airline demands payment for, you feel like you're being scammed. It makes the airline look duplicitous and stingy. You're like, ugh, they really want money for a tiny bag of pretzels? Really, guys? And it's like, well, on United Airlines, the pretzels aren't really free either. They're just factored into the total cost.
I really wish I could remember what airline it was. But this is like one of my core memories that I have from a traveling experience. I don't even remember how old I was. I want to say I think I might have been 18. And my mom and I went to San Francisco for spring break. And I think on our flight back, for some reason, the airline, again, wish I could remember which one. I want to say it was like United or Delta, one of the major ones, definitely not Spirit. And this reminded me, because they shuffled seats around at the last second, so we got separated. And at one point I was like starving. And I was like, can I please have, like, a thing of Pringles? And then the lady was like, yeah, you know, it costs money. Because, I was an adult. Obviously, I was 18, but, you know, I was still, like, young. Like, I'm in my early 30s now, so 18 to me is still, like, kind of a baby, more or less. And I think she just felt really bad for me, especially because I was wedged in between two strangers where they ended up putting me. And then eventually, like, she gave me the chips and she was busy, so she moved along, and then it was, like, a couple hours later when she was finally able to come back, and I was like, oh, I can go ahead and pay for those, and she told me, you know what, don't worry about it. And I thought that was so really fucking cool. I wish I could remember the airline. But, you know, shout outs to that particular flight attendant who gave me a tiny little mini can of Pringles for free that day because she felt bad for me. Really, really made a shitty situation less shitty.
But you don't know that when you're paying for the ticket. So when you get the pretzels, it feels like a perk. Framing is everything. If you pay extra for every aspect of an experience across many steps of booking, you feel taken advantage of every time it happens. It makes your relationship with the company feel antagonistic, as if they're trying to get away with doing as little for you as possible. And on the other hand, if you opt out of those amenities, if you don't add them on, you get a lesser experience. You'll have saved money, but you'll also be sitting on the same plane with all the people who did opt into the slightly better experience, and you'll be watching them get this better service. And that doesn't feel good either. That makes you feel poor. And that is why everyone thinks Spirit Airlines is the scammy, trashy airline, and they feel negatively about flying on it. So that's already pretty bad. But now, let's run a thought experiment where Spirit Airlines charges extra for everything, but that base ticket is no longer half price. In fact, it doesn't even cost the same as all the other airlines. It actually costs more than everyone else is charging, and yet all those amenities still cost extra. Extra square footage, extra activities, extra character interactions, your trip photos. Hey guys, we know you'll probably want all of these things, but each of them is gonna cost you just a little bit extra. You don't have to buy any of them, but just be aware that if you don't, there is a non-zero chance that your already very expensive vacation is going to be just a little bit worse than it could have been. In my opinion, if the starting price is already so expensive that all anyone who brings up your product talks about is how expensive it is, it should then be all-inclusive. Add-ons should not exist. The already high price should cover everything. And there especially shouldn't be add-ons that can only accommodate a small fraction of the guests. If you're selling something as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, if an amenity cannot be provided for all guests, it should not be sold to any of them. So what I'm saying is the price seems bad, and it is. But what matters is that generates a customer experience, which is also bad. Part 5, the ship. You'll be seeing glimpses of it in all my footage anyway, but I'm sure you're curious, so first let me walk you through all of the physical environments in this experience. All the spaces accessible to guests. First stop, the arrival terminal. Driving up was kind of interesting. We actually went to the Hollywood Studios park and then traveled backstage.
Doesn't even feel like we're supposed to be here. That looks like the sign. I think that's the sign. No, that's definitely it. But it's like we're backstage.
So we got to see the back of Star Wars Land and drive past what I think are cast parking lots.
Yeah. Star Cruiser. Star Cruiser. Crazy.
So because it was a restricted area, they had a security gate and they took our IDs to make sure we actually had a reservation before we could even drive up to the hotel. When we got to the terminal, it was pretty chaotic. The Star Cruiser set an arrival window of 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., but I've already shown you the cost per minute breakdown. Obviously, everybody is trying to get there and get inside as early as they can. In the story of the hotel, you must take a pod from the terminal up into space where the Star Cruiser Halcyon is waiting in orbit. So in the real world, you must take a themed elevator to the lobby of the hotel, which is on the 2nd floor. And I think that is fun. I think it's very cute. But that also means that they can only let like 10 guests into the hotel at a time, and the line has to stop for a minute in between. So with everybody arriving all at once, you can expect like a 40-minute wait before you can actually get inside. For reasons I genuinely cannot understand, Disney decided not to build any kind of indoor lobby at street level. It's just a long wait in this sad outdoor queue area, and then a slightly shorter wait in this sad concrete hallway. And again, in the story, you're not on the ship yet, so I didn't expect anything super fancy here, but like in story, this space is meant to emulate an airport terminal, so why does it look sadder than that? Surely they could have built an enclosed, air-conditioned lobby with some chairs, and then maybe guests could take a number instead of standing in line, just so everybody isn't waiting in a packed outdoor queue in the Florida heat in their Star Wars cosplays, which are also warm. And I do mean packed because there wasn't very much physical room for people to line up, which added to the chaotic vibe. I think Disney must have assumed during construction that not everybody would arrive at once, but why would they assume that? They knew how much money they were charging. I mean, they even advised everyone to get there an entire day early so they could arrive on time. The cast members brought around chilled bottles of the Space Dasani they sell in Galaxy's Edge to compensate for the heat, which was very nice. And obviously a 40-minute wait isn't the end of the world, but in every aspect of the hotel, I am keeping the price in mind. Again, this was billed as a luxury hotel, and in my opinion, this isn't a luxury hotel way to welcome guests. Plus, our trip was in March and we were sweating in the shade. Imagine going in August. I mean, you don't have to now because they're out of business, but whatever. Right before you get on your pod into space, you get a little out of character intro video. I think this video could have incorporated a little more guidance on the gameplay of the experience, but its primary function was to play a demo of the in-character emergency alarm.
As your adventure progresses, there will be special, highly dramatic moments that will ask for everyone's attention. They will be signaled with a ship-wide display that looks like this.
Then, for comparison, they play the out-of-character alarm and tell you the protocol for a real emergency. For example, if you're in your hotel room when a fire breaks out, the hotel doesn't have fire escapes, so you're meant to crouch in this little shame closet and press a panic button, then wait in the dark for help to arrive. Comforting. I actually thought this was such a good idea. The intro video, not the shame closet. I have criticized certain other immersive experiences in the past for failing to distinguish between real and fake emergencies, but also fake.
That clip she played and that whole I've criticized people in the past, blah blah blah. That's referring to their to her Evermore video, which I was torn between the Evermore video and this one for today. And it was just for some reason settled on the Star Wars one. Now I kind of wish I did the Evermore one first. I don't know, maybe just because I like fantasy more than sci-fi. Anyway, well, that's what she's referring to. Whenever we do get to Evermore, maybe whenever the next co-working stream is, we'll watch that next time. Oh boy, that's a fun time. I think that one's just under 4 hours. This one's a bit over 4 hours. So again, another chunky video.
Fake emergencies are fun, as long as you know that they're fake. So the idea of doing this video gets a chef's kiss from me. And it didn't feel like a spoiler. If anything, it made me more excited for the story because immediately you start wondering when the alarm is going to go off. Upon arrival, everyone's luggage has to go through a security check, and all the people also have to go through a security check. These happen separately because the bellhops take your luggage away as soon as you arrive. So they would confiscate pocket knives, scissors, and anything that looked like a gun, even if it was a prop.
And your journey begins.
Once we made it up to the ship, individual cast members were waiting to walk each guest to their rooms. They also gave like a little mini tour as they walked with little nuggets of ship lore.
That little door right there is from our founder, Chuck DeVore. He wasn't in Zelland, so...
Oh, so he only needs a little tiny door.
Exactly. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately.
Oh. And then they pointed out where everything was in the room. And our luggage was already waiting for us in our room by the time we got inside, which I loved. That whole part of the experience did feel very deluxe to me, so we were off to a positive start. We were also presented with our M bands, which in the rest of Disney World Resort are called Magic Bands. But these ones are special because they look different. The band has an RFID chip in it, so you can use it as a room key, you can attach a credit card to it and use it to make purchases, and it also stores fast passes for rides. This is not new technology for Disney, they've been doing it at all their hotels for a while now, but I do like it, I think it's handy. So now the trip has officially begun, and it's time to take a look around. The atrium, this is where we entered. It's a beautiful space, I like it a lot. It has a balcony which is inaccessible to guests. Up there is where a lot of the major story elements are going to play layout, so it's actors only. There are all these cushiony couches with end tables to set drinks on, and down at leg level, they also have outlets and USB ports to charge your devices while you're sitting there. I will say everybody was tripping over these low tables the entire weekend. They are at shin height for maximum bruising. There's this little model of the Halcyon, the ship we're meant to be on, so it's a little visual aid. At various points throughout the day, they also leave out pre-packaged snacks in the atrium, and they have taps in the corner for chilled and sparkling water. There are 2 tiny windows way up high on one end through which you can kind of see neighboring planets, or when the ship jumps to light speed, you can see the stripes. To be honest, I don't think it's the best view. I kind of envisioned the common areas of the ship having a lot more ground level windows to space. I probably envisioned that because that's what all of the concept art showed before the hotel was constructed. Also, I got to eat at the space station themed restaurant in Epcot, which opened like a year before the Star Cruiser and has a ton of really large space windows, and I thought that left a much more breathtaking impression. Oh, I should also mention that when the ship jumps to light speed, I thought it would be cool if the atrium or the bridge was on some kind of hydraulic pad to give a little bit of movement when you make the jump. You know, nothing hard enough to make people stumble, but just like a little kick. And since that sounded pretty ambitious, I thought they would just put subwoofers under the floor and it would like vibrate or something. And they actually didn't do that either. When the ship jumps to light speed, it plays the sound effect, and you can see the hyperspace lines through those small distant windows, but it's not a horribly convincing effect. One feature I liked in the atrium are these big column things with projections inside. The projections are sort of rotating advertisements for things you can do on the ship, like an image of Gaia to promote her concert. Sometimes it's the Halcyon logo, and then at one point in the storyline, the First Order puts their logo up there because they've taken over. I've heard a lot of discourse about whether or not the ship looks like Star Wars, mostly people saying that it does not. Obviously, that's because everybody thinks of the Star Wars aesthetic as being dingy, lived in. Everything looks like it's from the future, but also at a yard sale. On the other hand, the prequel films were dominated by green screens with smooth 2000 CGI and had some strikingly sterile and plastic environments. The sequel trilogy mostly went back to the nostalgic, dingy sci-fi aesthetic, but then we also had films like Solo showing space opulence, and across all films, the villains' big star destroyers look pretty slick and generically futuristic. So given the breadth of aesthetics across the years of movies, I wouldn't necessarily call this environment un-Star Wars. However, I do think that in even approaching the concept for this hotel, Imagineers ran into a problem. If you're charging luxury prices and offering luxury service, you want to build a luxurious environment. But in Star Wars, our heroes are primarily poor people. In fact, the rich people are usually the bad guys. One choice I found interesting is that in story, the Halcyon is meant to be an extremely old luxury cruiser with a long legacy. So that's how they explain the High Republic stylings of it. This is kind of like the Titanic of the Star Wars universe if it hadn't sunk. I just mean it's an old ship, I don't know. And I speculate that that was not only done to justify the aesthetic, but to also leave the ship open for reworked storylines. Imagine an alternate timeline where this was a smashing success and tons of people went to it, and after several years, everybody who wanted to do it had already seen it. Since canonically the ship has existed for like the entire Star Wars timeline, they could just do a story overhaul every couple years, set it anywhere they wanted to, and not have to make any physical alterations to the building. So they could set it during the original trilogy, they could have new original characters, Luke is running around, and then at the end he fights Darth Vader, or like Jabba the Hutt. Personally, I would prefer Jabba, and then they could wheel him out on like a big bicycle-mounted puppet, like the Ursula from the Little Mermaid show. He's like, oh, I'm here. That's not even what he sounds like. I just assumed that all of this was encompassed in the original pitch for the project, and it would have happened if it had existed long enough, but I guess now we'll never know. Anyway, through a pretty window at the front of the lobby, you can see into the bridge, which has the biggest space windows, so you can kind of see that view into space from the atrium if it's not crowded or you're on that end of the room. The bridge was not open at all times, it was mostly locked, and then they would use it for scheduled story moments for smaller groups of guests at a time. But in the evenings when the story was over, they left it open to guests.
Are we allowed to just wander in?
Probably not, but maybe we should.
We should try.
Let's just do it.
Grab the shoes as always.
Thank you.
The consoles were all turned off, so there was nothing to do in there during those times, but you could look around and use it as a photo op.
This is basically... It's nice. I like it.
I want to try it.
It's very bendy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good feel to it.
Off the lobby is a gift shop full of entirely in-universe items.
During your lightsaber training, you'll wield a lightsaber, of course.
Mhm.
We also learn how to deflect laser blasts with a shield just like this one.
I was gonna say, it can't deflect a lightsaber, surely. Just lasers?
Yeah, it's more for laser blasts.
Okay.
But if you do a lightsaber, I think it would be some protection right
What
there
is
as
it
well.
made of? Is it fragile?
No, it's pretty durable.
I should get this. It's plastic. It can travel.
I thought the selection of souvenirs was pretty cool, although they had no plush, which I took personally. I love that the Halcyon aesthetic has everything in gold and silver and black, and it has a cool logo.
So you'll see
Whoa, I
Master
like
right
this
there.
droid. What is
Yes,
this?
He's JD series. So
Will we see him?
So our transports are driven by JDFA. So you might not see him, but you'll definitely hear him.
Ooh, okay.
They have all these in-universe clothes and accessories you can buy and immediately wear during your stay, and the quality varied, but I liked the variety. I thought there were some really clever pieces, and personally, I think that in-universe items, and especially wearables, are always my favorite merch for anything. They were sold out of a lot of stuff when I went, though, so that's kind of sad, and I read online that that was pretty much the case the entire time they were open. They never had everything in stock, and that sucks, because you're probably only going to go once. I'm certainly not going to get anything else now. I should also mention that I got this big, gigantic droid for like, I think like $200 or something stupid. I don't want to talk about it. He's my best friend and I love him so much. Anyway, I used the Disney Resort shipping service to send him home, which they heavily advertise everywhere because he's really big and he wouldn't fit in my luggage. And I kept my receipt, so I know I wrote my own address down correctly, but I guess when they typed it into the computer to send it to the post office, they typed a totally different address and my droid went missing. I called a couple different departments trying to ask where my droid went and what I could do about it, and they said that there was nothing that could be done. But then after I tweeted about it on my Twitter account with a lot of followers, Disney suddenly resolved it and they sent me a replacement. They actually overnighted it to me, and along with it they sent a bunch of miscellaneous goodies, which I really appreciated. So here again, I feel like if this had happened to anyone without a lot of Twitter followers, they would have had a significantly more frustrating experience. Anyway, on the other side of the atrium, we've got the lounge. I think this area is so cool. As soon as pictures came out, people were like, it's so small. And I agree, it's a very small space with only a few tables, but every time I went past it, it was never more than 50% full. More on that later. But anyway, at least it wasn't too small. I love all the glowing ingredient bottles behind the bar, the little inset nooks for the booths, and the quilted yellow velvet on the walls. I love quilting. It's so futuristic. This might be my favorite room on the whole ship. I really liked these weird creatures floating around in these tubes. I assume in the lore they're probably involved in making one of the drinks, but I didn't get to learn any of that stuff. And the last thing off the atrium is a little public restroom. I didn't film in there because I felt weird about it, but fortunately I did find a fan film which incorporated footage of it.
I need the sweetness right now. To calm me, to bring me down. Ah! Oh no. Oh no. I have dropped the spice everywhere. If this is found, if I am discovered, I am ruined. I am trapped. Stay calm, get it all off the ground. This has all been happening. How am I here? I wanted to be erased.
So, as you can see, that was themed as well. Head downstairs and we've got a few story locations. There's the lightsaber training room, which is usually locked but will be used for a couple story moments later. There's the climate simulator, which in actuality is a small courtyard. This is for the benefit of claustrophobic guests who need to be able to see the sky and breathe fresh air. I can't relate, but some people are like that. In the story of the Star Cruiser, we're in space, so obviously the sky is fake. I'm doing finger quotes. I'm showing my B-roll, but I'm doing finger quotes. The room is simply simulating the climate of our destination planet so that guests can acclimate before arrival. There isn't much to do out here. They have some plants and plaques describing the plants, which we're told are in universe, and they have all these piles of rocks.
I don't know how I did that.
There's a story moment that happens here, and I'll get to it later. There's a brig, which is fun because it foreshadows that there's probably going to be a jailbreak at some point.
I want to get thrown in the brig.
The brig?
And then there are two locked doors, the engineering room and the cargo hold.
That's going to be one of those areas on the ship that are special credentials required. I would recommend talking to some of our very important crew members or passengers through the messages on your data pad to maybe get some access to that throughout your voyage.
You have to unlock access to those doors over the course of the story. It's mysterious.
Ooh. The cargo hold. What do we have?
Cute chairs.
We gotta go inside. So those are all the common areas, and I'm sure you're wondering about the accommodations. Part 6, the room.
Okay, so we're in
It always like catches. I know, it's weird. I think maybe push it in slightly. Okay. Wow, the aesthetic of that shot was totally It wasn't like, well, I was trying.
The rooms are little. I heard before I went that the rooms were going to be little, but I guess I wasn't expecting how little. And no, it being a simulation of a cruise ship is not an excuse. Rooms on cruise ships aren't small because it enhances the ambiance of the cruise. They're small for practical reasons because they're part of a massive craft that has to be able to move through water. This fake cruise isn't actually going anywhere, and in story, this ship is supposed to be a lot bigger than the parts we can access anyway, so it wouldn't shatter my immersion to have a slightly larger room. I guess there were bigger rooms available for higher prices. Those rooms actually weren't offered to me when I booked, or I might have gotten one of them for completion's sake. At the time I booked, they weren't even open yet, and there was very little info, so I had just sort of assumed that all rooms were equal. So it might have been nice if the booking agent warned me that I was getting the crummiest room for my extremely high price point. So like, to be fair, it would obviously be overly simplistic to say that I'm paying $3,000 per night for this little room. I've seen a lot of people compare this to the price of other Disney hotels, and that's simply not accurate because at most hotels you're only paying for the room, whereas this is more about the entire experience. But you know what I can compare it to? The thing that Disney is comparing it to, a cruise. Both come with all your food, with alcohol costing extra. Galactic Star Cruiser has actors performing little dramatic scenes, some with special effects. But Disney Cruises have theaters on board showing what they claim to be Broadway caliber performances. And they also have roaming Disney characters to meet. Cruises are actually going somewhere, usually a private island, but the Galactic Star Cruiser does let you off into the theme park. Cruises have kids clubs with games and activities, and also have decks with giant pools and impressive water slides. So cruises do have a little more on offer, but Galactic Star Cruiser has novelty on its side, so let's just call it a wash and say they provide a roughly equivalent experience. So okay, let's see what this price per guest per night gets you on a Disney cruise. For the Galactic Star Cruiser, it was $3,000 per night for 2 guests. So there's a 2-guest 3-night cruise to the Bahamas, and it's on the Disney Wish, their newest cruise ship. It's $97.30 total, including taxes and port fees. So that's $3,200 per night for 2 guests, or $6,400 for 2 nights. I think that's about as close as I can hope to get to the Star Cruiser's $6,000 2-night experience. So let's see what it gets us. A concierge-level 1-bedroom suite with an extended private veranda. It looks like it's right at the front of the ship. The master bedroom has a king-size bed, there's a little table and chairs to sit down and have a meal, a living room lounge area with a fold-out sofa, 2 full bathrooms, and the master bathroom comes with a double vanity mirror and jacuzzi tub. And oh cool, it looks like they've left this guy a little fruit basket and a bottle of chilled champagne to thank him for booking such an extravagant room. In case you haven't picked up on it yet, this is one of the fanciest ways you can ever do a Disney cruise. Given that a landlocked hotel doesn't even share the same space limitations and overhead costs as a room in a ship at sea, I can't imagine any justification for the Galactic Star Cruiser having smaller rooms. And I know they can make the argument that you're not meant to spend that much time in your room anyway, that all the fun stuff is in the rest of the hotel, but cruise ships make that same argument too, and apparently are still more generous with their space. Disney could have spent negligibly more in the construction phase to make every room a big room, and they decided not to. There is no justifiable reason for Disney to have limited the room size other than stinginess and to increase pressure to get you to pay extra for a little more space. Because again, we're on that Spirit Airlines model. Anyway, it was only 2 of us in this room, and for 2 people, I would say it's perfectly adequate space. It didn't feel luxurious, but at least it didn't feel claustrophobic.
It's like a little mouse droid.
I have to ride around on it. It's actually as fun as you would think it would be.
Wait, really? I want to do it.
I'm serious.
I want to do it. Wait, there's another one. No, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Ooh. Okay, these are cool.
Yeah, this is your announcement. You're here as like a video of you sitting out.
But this room we were in was advertised to fit up to 5 adults, and that, to me, is insane. I don't even know how you'd fit 5 people's luggage inside. One of the provided beds was a fold-down Murphy bed under the TV, and we actually ended up folding it down like a shelf just to put our suitcases on because the floor space was pretty limited otherwise. Not to mention how limited time is to get ready each day with your one tiny little shared bathroom. I saw some people defending the Star Cruiser's pricing by being like, well, if you put 5 people in the tiny room, you may be able to get it for as cheap as $1,400 per person. To which I say, that is somehow an even worse deal. If you did that, you would still be paying luxury prices, but now you would also be miserable the whole time. It's like when I went to Comic-Con in college with my school friends, and like half of us were sleeping on the floor of a Motel 6. Except at a Motel 6, you're gonna pay like $20 a person, and you're probably going to get a room like twice the size of the one at Star Cruiser. The only demographic I can imagine happily splitting this room 5 ways is like 5 physically compact, able-bodied people, each an adult paying their own way, each of whom travels light with only like a backpack with 2 extra t-shirts in it, none of whom wear makeup, and only some of whom shower regularly. I'm sure there are groups of 5 friends who love Star Wars and fit that exact description. And even in their case, I feel like they'd be massively overpaying for what they'd be getting.
So it's just trailers.
It's just like, yeah, I think it's just trailers for Disney Plus, and then the actual stuff you can watch is just like ads and trailers and stuff. Like this isn't the movie Eternals, it's an ad.
Wait, what? Are you serious? No, like, is there anything on this? It's a real
Fire
movie?
Show ad, I think.
What? Oh my god. Is it like a storybook reading?
Oh no, it is.
That's actually, like, how much would they lose just giving people access to Disney Plus?
Anyway, there are things I like about the room. The first one is just luck, but our room was extremely well positioned. The hallways with the guest rooms were super long, and ours was like right at the top of the hallway, I think because I booked so early. We were in room 4-103. The 4 means that in the story of the cruise, we were on the 4th deck of the ship, but the 103 means that in real life, we were on the ground floor of the building. That means that in a fire, we would probably live, which is always fortunate, and it also means that we shared a floor with a lot of the amenities, like the climate simulator, the dining room, and the transportation to the theme park. It was crazy convenient. I slept in the top bunk of the bunk beds, and I really loved my little space pod.
I kind of like the idea of being in a little space cubby.
Yeah? Yeah, it does look pretty cozy. Wait, I want to see if these are squishy. Oh, they are.
I think it's for kids. Wait, what is that? Oh, maybe it's a little reading light. Oh yeah, it is. See?
Oh, that's cute.
It's a little light.
Oh,
this is sick.
Wait, you should do it. It feels good.
Oh, I want to do it. Oh, it does. Nice.
It's padded all the way around, and it made me feel like I was in a little sci-fi cocoon. The mattresses were really firm, and that's what my back likes. I know some people like a soft mattress, and they may have not liked it, but I liked it. They left these quilts on the bunk beds. It's basically just a mattress with a fitted sheet, and then you drape a quilt over you. That's actually how I sleep at home, because it's easier to make the bed that way, so no shade. I actually really wish they sold the quilts in the gift shop, because that would have been like my favorite souvenir. I heard that some people just stole the quilts, and then they charged the credit card attached to the room, and I should have done that. I should have stolen the quilt. I loved the overall aesthetics of the room. If they had made the room bigger or the price point smaller, it would have been an A+ for me.
Oh look, little space details at the foot of the bed.
I call this baby blues.
And then of course we've got the shame closet. I'm ambivalent about it. I just wanted to show it to you.
Creepy. No storage. Yeah, that makes sense.
They left us a little souvenir tin with makeup remover wipes and bubbling face masks. I tried them and they were really nice, and I ordered more online. A+. Look, they're branded and everything. It's so cute. And the illustrations on the back show a Twi'lek using it. I love it. I would totally keep buying them, except now the Star Cruiser is going out of business, and the soap company that makes them is also going out of business. It's a curse. I should also mention that each guest room had this little terminal where you could talk to an AI droid character.
Cute. It's a map of the ship.
Well, I certainly didn't plan for stormtroopers to use the bunk bed.
I don't like this droid.
Passengers.
Oh.
Hello, and welcome aboard.
Look at this. Come see it. Hi.
Is now a good time to discuss your journey?
Sure.
Wonderful.
No, I don't like it.
I'm sorry, I just don't find this kind of technology very interesting. It's cool that she's animated, but this just feels so limited, at least at this point in time. Like, I have an Amazon device that turns on my lights for me, but I wouldn't do that on vacation as an activity. Do you know what I'm saying? So I tried to give it a fair shot for a minute, but then I wanted to leave, and I'm afraid I never tried it again.
Before I forget, did you bring any Dianoga eggs with you on board?
Yeah.
I'm so pleased we found you. We found the eggs unattended in the hydrolift and wondered where they came from. I'll move them to containment for our voyage. Now, as for what you can do first. Now, unless there's anything else, I'll let you go.
Okay.
Best journey.
Bye. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the
How about
space
just
window.
breaks and stops
So
working?
cute. It doesn't read well on camera. It's literally just our reflections in it. Hello.
I saw a lot of people bashing the space window, and I think they're being sticks in the mud. One of the most common refrains was, who wants to pay thousands of dollars to sleep in a windowless coffin? I don't know, I guess I'm built different, but in the short term, I don't really care about having windows or seeing the sun. Maybe this is why my sleep schedule is so broken.
We just hit light speed and we're somewhere new now. This is probably the best looking animation I've seen on TV. Or watching Ghost Adventures.
I think a space window is a cool substitute and prefer having a themed view to an ordinary one, and didn't feel claustrophobic about not having a real window. But I didn't think the effect was all the way there.
Why is it so smeary? Is it like that from every angle? Yes. Okay, interesting.
It never looked very convincing.
There's a little shit.
To be fair, they don't show up well on camera, but to be totally honest, they don't look much better in person. Worst of all, they've got these bright light strips pointed outward around the perimeter of the window. I assume there's some kind of optical illusion science at play here, like maybe the power of contrasts, or maybe keeping our pupils little is meant to make the effect look less bad. But unfortunately at bedtime, most people find those light strips too bright to sleep with, and they're right next to the bed because the room is tiny. They do have this button you can press to close the window, so, turn it off, and that shuts off the lights.
I'm just gonna do a lot of like slow pans. What'd you do? What'd you do?
I closed the.
What?
I closed the screen.
Oh my god.
Do it. Do it.
You broke it. It's never gonna open again.
But that means if you want those LED strips turned off, you have to turn off the space window, which I would have liked to leave on so I could enjoy it while settled down in my little cocoon. After the hotel had been open a few months, I started seeing posts pop up in Disney World fan groups being like, pro tip, bring gaffer's tape and manually cover all the light strips around the window so you can enjoy it at night. And first of all, most people would not know to do that, so that's not helpful for everyone staying at the
Imagine paying
hotel.
for a
And
luxury
secondly,
hotel
it's a little
experience.
pathetic to be paying luxury prices for a
Yeah.
hotel room where you have to then spend 20 minutes putting
That's
gaffer's tape on the walls to
absurd.
make its features functional. I really love the idea of a themed hotel
God
room.
damn,
In fact,
dude.
whenever I go to a new place, one of the first things I do is Google city name
Every time I
plus
rewatch this, I'm
themed
just so
hotel to see if there are any options. That's how I end up staying in train cars and tiny western towns and goat-themed suites. So, while I think the demographic for a luxury-priced themed hotel has got to be extremely small, I am squarely in that demographic. And even with that in mind, this room fell short of my expectations. So, C+ for the room. Part 7, the characters. Since this is a multi-branching story, I think the best way to explain it to you guys is just to explain each separate character and their arc. The following characters are the central cast, walking around the ship for guests to freely interact with. Captain Kevin. She is a Resistance ally working undercover. I know she's generally trying to help the Resistance, but I'm not really sure what her overall goal is because I'm not really sure what the Resistance's goal is. I think it's something about getting coaxium, but I didn't hear any express purpose for it or like anything to give that mission a sense of urgency. In a lot of the publicity photos, this character's design looks whack, in my opinion. I think because you've got the very fake looking shiny red wig and the blue skin and the uncanny contact lenses, but in person under atmospheric lighting it worked a lot better for me. The captain was probably my favorite character. I feel like we kept running into her. Lenka Mock, she's the crew's director, so like the second in command to the captain. We also never really talked to her one-on-one. I think maybe she wasn't free roaming as much as the others. We tended to mostly see her pop up for scheduled story scenes, but I think her character's deal is maybe she starts out neutral and then becomes a Resistance ally. But that was just my impression. I might be wrong. Maybe she was with the Resistance the whole time. Lieutenant Croy is a First Order officer investigating the ship.
Oh no!
This was another of my favorite characters. This actor had such great villain energy.
I will use a restraining bolt to disable him.
No! We talked to him a lot too. We were actually trying to get the First Order storyline, but you'll hear more about that later. Croy also brought 2 stormtroopers with him. They don't have names, but I felt like I should mention them because they're also actors. I think their dialogue is pre-recorded, like the ones in the theme park, although they do have a whole soundboard to choose from, so there's still interactivity there.
Oh my god, he's got a gun. Very intimidating.
Look how clever you are. Good for you.
Wow.
Sammy is the ship's engineer. He's like a bumbling newbie on the job and begins the story as a neutral character and a coward. On a couple occasions, he gets peer pressured into helping the First Order and then feels guilty about it, and ultimately he becomes a Resistance hero. SK-620 is the astromech on board, and they are secretly sympathetic to the Resistance.
Oh, it's SK. SK.
He's looking around.
SK, come in here. Get in here, buddy.
SK.
I love SK. SK is a free roaming droid. You can go right up to them and touch them and stuff.
He's going up the ramp.
I don't know that you will all keep her safe.
We will.
I
would die for him.
You don't have to. If you would go back and hide.
I actually spotted the dude controlling SK once. In the grand tradition of theme park robot puppeteers, he's disguised as a dad in street clothes with a bulky camera bag. I'm not showing you this because I think it's a bad thing that I spotted him, but just because it's a little movie magic for you guys, so I hope you enjoy that. I didn't spot him in any other scenes, so I think he generally blended in really well with the crowd and stayed pretty far away from SK most of the time, except for moments in the bridge where they were worried they were going to run over a child. Gaia is a Twi'lek pop star who's performing on the ship, but the performance is really just a ruse to steal an artifact the ship has on display. The ship is from Old Republic times, and in the lobby they've got a big gem which is sacred to the Twi'lek people, but was stolen by colonizers a long time ago. So Gaia wants to grab it and return it to her homeworld. I think she's also a Resistance sympathizer, or maybe she just hates the establishment, I'm not sure. Wraith Cole is Gaia's manager. I avoided him like the plague because you can tell just looking at him that this guy is the smuggler storyline, and I aggressively did not want to do the smuggler storyline. I'm sorry, that's my subjective
You mean
taste,
with how
and I was right,
how
and it worked.
strongly
Mission
they were
accomplished.
pushing the
Anyway, he's helping
smuggling?
Gaia steal the stone, I guess.
Literally
Before my trip,
every
I had
single
actually heard
time
some
they
of
got the
Star
chance to
Cruiser
mention
designers
it.
saying that there were all
That
these
was not
storylines you could
appealing?
explore, and that one of them was a romance.
Do you join the Resistance? Do you join the First Order? Are you a scoundrel? There's a love story on board. There's everything you could possibly want.
And there's this moment at dinner where, in my opinion, there was some sort of a sexual tension between Wraith Cole and Lenka Mock. And at that moment, I was like, oh, we're not really interacting with either of those characters, but that must be the romance plot. And she's very by the book, and he's a scoundrel. It's kind of like a Han and Leia sort of dynamic. And my intuition was wrong. We'll get back to that later. Sandro is Gaia's guitarist. He has to learn to believe in himself or something. We didn't really talk to him. He's like that guy at a party who brings a guitar and takes requests. I saw in a lot of media preview photos that they had him in different makeup and just wearing a scarf on his head, but on our cruise he was a Togruta, so he had that head thing that Ahsoka has. I kind of assume he's always meant to have the hat, and like, maybe they just ran out of time to put the hat on a couple times and they were like, well, we'll have to commit to this look for the rest of the cruise. I don't know, it's weird. It's weird that all the other characters are the same every time and this one isn't. Lani is my very favorite, so I left her for last. Should we follow her? We should follow her. She's a Rhodian, the same species as Greedo, so the performer is wearing a full-face animatronic mask. She speaks pre-recorded phrases in an alien language, and her mouth moves, along with the skin around her eyes and her little antenna things.
Oh, thank you. My hat? I think it would look really good on you. Yeah. Right? It goes with everything. I can't wait to see your show. We're going to the 8 o'clock one. Yeah, you'll see us there. Chat with what?
I don't know. I don't speak
You don't speak our language? She's Gaia's backup singer and plays some kind of weird alien instrument. I think her main plot is that she's talented enough to be a star in her own right, but the manager doesn't see her potential. Maybe out of speciesism or something, since she's the most alien-looking character on the ship. Saja is either a character or a group. I couldn't figure out if this character was one individual named Saja or a religious order called the Saja, consisting of like 3 or 4 people. There were multiple characters wearing the same tunic and beads, and I'm like 90% sure that more than one of them called themselves Saja. But in the app, you can get text from Saja, and then the icon is just an image of one lady, so I don't get it. Anyway, my impression is that these are sort of like the Chirrut Imwe character from Rogue One, who I'm sure nobody remembers by name, but he's the one who's like not a Jedi, he's a monk that studies the Force. So I think that's their deal. I think they're not Jedi, I think they just study it and teach lightsaber training and can move things with the Force and dress kind of like Jedi. That's very similar to Jedi, what I'm describing. Don't ask me how it fits into canon. I don't have the answers you seek. So all of the above cast members that I just listed will be on the ship for about 8 hours per day. Actually, the total length of time spans 9 hours because the performers are taking staggered lunch breaks in the middle, but they're staggered so you don't notice. They also kind of stagger when they send them out, so it doesn't feel so much like, oh, the character's shift has begun. Like you'll notice on day 1, Uwani arrives a bit earlier than the others, and I think that's because Uwani is probably split between 2 performers with overlapping shifts. That means they can stretch her time on the ship a little longer, and also she can take more frequent breaks because they probably overheat really fast in there. Similarly, SK is on stage a lot longer than the other actors, and I think that's just because droids have much worse labor unions. And then after all those guys, we have the movie characters. Chewbacca, I don't really know why he's here. Every Chewbacca story moment involves hiding Chewbacca or freeing Chewbacca from jail after failing to hide him. So I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. Rey, I have no idea what in the world Rey is doing on this ship.
Rey just ran through here.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
She ran into there and then pried open those doors and ran through.
I know that ultimately she finds a holocron. Spoilers.
Yes. A Jedi holocron.
But it seemed like that was a surprise to her, so I don't know why she showed up to begin with. Maybe she just wanted to take a cruise. Kylo Ren, I think he's just here to kill us. Like he heard there were resistance sympathizers and wants to kill and torture us. Admittedly, seems like a pretty small fish to fry when you're the supreme leader of the galaxy, but I won't pretend Kylo Ren was ever a reasonable guy. May he rest in peace. Interestingly, unlike the theme park, this version of Kylo Ren is actually performing his dialogue live through a voice changer. That feels like a little bit of extra effort on the part of the tech crew, which I appreciate, but I don't really see the point. Kylo Ren only appears in a couple short, pre-scripted scenes that seem super choreographed, so it's not like the actor has that much freedom in the performance anyway, and it can sometimes be hard to understand what he's saying. If anything, it would have been cooler to have the stormtroopers speaking through voice changers, since those are the ones you can actually interact with. But whatever. The movie characters do not wander freely like the central cast do. They appear in story moments as like cameos, usually paired with one of the cruise ship characters, but then when the scene is over, they make themselves scarce. So you won't be making small talk with these guys. Oh, and of course, there's me! Since we're living our own Star Wars story, I thought we were supposed to come up with our own characters. I knew I would be filming the whole time, and also that I was hoping to get the First Order story path. So I decided to be Amethea Taupe, an influencer from Coruscant. That's a core world, a wealthy planet, and a political center. I just thought being rich and from there would be as good a way as any to signal complacency with a fascist government. I even brought Skippy, my spoiled little handbag alien dog. See, I made him a little hat. It looks kind of bad, but I made it. I was going to only carry Skippy for one of the 2 days because he's real big, but people seem to really like him, and it occurred to me that maybe if I had him every day, he would be a good recognizable accessory so characters could remember who I was even though I was changing my clothes. If you're not familiar with Skippy, he's a character from a defunct Disney World attraction, and when Captain Keevan saw him, she called him by his name right away.
And Skippy?
Skippy, exactly.
Yes.
You're a fan of him.
Well,
like I said, we love Captain Keevan. Isn't that right, Skippy? That means, yeah, that's how his kind agree. Anyway, having experienced the Star Cruiser, my takeaway is this. It's not really worth coming up with a character. The performers will ask you your name, but when you give an obviously fake name, they look at you funny and make you feel like you have committed a faux pas. All I can think is, even though I went pretty early, maybe the actors had already encountered too many guests who wanted to roleplay to a weird extent, like trying to be the main character or bringing too much emotional intensity to the game. But again, that's just the vibe I got from the frozen grimaces I received when I tried to use a fake name. It's also possible that the actors are being fed information which would be linked to the legal name that you booked your hotel under. I'll get to that later. So anyway, I dropped the character name within like an hour of arrival. But I do think it's handy to bring a memorable prop or accessory as a conversation piece. I like how I'm giving advice as if you're gonna book it. Part 8, the food. As on a real cruise, the food is included in the price, so it's all going to be free. Well, you've already paid. It's prepaid. The only refreshments that cost extra money are the alcoholic beverages, and they have some mocktails that cost money too. I know on some real cruises the alcohol is free, but to my knowledge on every Disney cruise it's not free. So this was kind of expected for me. I was frankly overwhelmed by the amount of food. They do a scheduled breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every meal is all you can eat. Outside of meal times, the bar in the atrium also has a whole separate appetizer menu you can order from, and those are also all complimentary. I loved this cloche filled with smoke, and then they lift it up and it's full of little cheese balls and crackers. They also leave out very simple snacks in the atrium between meals, like yogurt, fruit cups, Parmesan crisps, and then like some child pleasers like cake pops and goldfish crackers. I saw some haters online being like, wow, paying that much for goldfish crackers? And it's like, okay guys, that's obviously for toddlers, but yes, they have goldfish crackers. I did actually eat a couple. But what I'm saying is you will not be hungry on this trip. It's impossible. The breakfasts and lunches are buffet style, and they have these little space trays with squares and rectangles you can slot the food dishes onto. I saw some people complain about the tiny portions on these little plates, and I don't understand that because it's a buffet. If you really like something, you can grab 10. But I liked that they were kind of sample sizes. It made it feel low commitment to try everything. They also have waiters wandering around to take drink orders at the buffet service meals. The dining room drinks menu is different from the lounge menu, but the waiters at meals can bring you anything from either menu. They can also bring you normal Earth cocktails if you don't want any of the crazy themed stuff, but in my opinion, you went all the way to space. You should get the themed stuff. They have a soda fountain with all the soda logos in Arabesh, just like in the theme park land, and they also have blue and green milk on tap. In the parks, blue and green milk is like a frozen milkshakey texture, and because it's plant-based, it separates a little when it melts, which I think is kind of gross. The Star Cruiser versions of the milk are the texture of milk. I'd compare it to like an Odwalla smoothie, a drinkable yogurt. I don't really like frozen drinks, so I way preferred the Star Cruiser version. It's actually what I was hoping the theme park version would be. Flavor-wise, they're the same as the parks. The blue is fruity and the green is floral. Everyone hates the green milk, but I personally like them both. The dinners are both table service and brought out in courses on platters for the table to share. I think not everybody realized this, but the table service dinners are also all you can eat. If you have a favorite item you finished off, you can ask your waiter to bring out a whole new plate of it, and they will. Also, I'm pretty sure the dessert at the first dinner was literally the same dessert you can buy in Pandora, the World of Avatar. I love that dessert, so I was happy, but it is kind of weird that it was the same. One thing that's true of all Disney's table service restaurants is that they're really flexible about dietary needs. If you have an allergy, they'll bring the chef out to speak with you and make sure you're on the same page. And if they don't have any menu items that can accommodate it, they'll just like think of something special to make. Also, every meal offers the kids' picky eater trifecta of chicken nuggies, pizza, and mac and cheese. And if you're an adult with no allergies and you're just a picky eater, you can order off the kids' menu to your heart's content. But honestly, the space food had very unintimidating flavor profiles. It would be like, oh, this tastes like a grilled cheese, this tastes like a curry, this tastes like a pizza, it's a salad with ranch. I will say though that Night 2's table service dinner had pretty abysmal vegetarian offerings. I said all that stuff about bringing out the chef and like he'll make you something from scratch, but like it didn't even occur to me that I would have to do that because every other Disney restaurant I've been to, they always have at least one plant-based offering. In fact, that's true at most non-Disney restaurants as well. But no, when you show up to dinner on Night 2, that's very much not the case. Only the appetizer is vegetarian, and then courses 2 and 3 are both only meat options. Like, they have multiple options, but all the options are meat. And I know you're like, why didn't you just say something? But like, I felt like by the time I realized it was kind of too late to ask the chef to make me something from scratch. And also I'm shy, so I didn't say anything, so I didn't have any food. But I thought that was very unexpected and very strange. I did see somebody on Twitter that asked for a vegetarian option at this meal, and they said they were just like brought a plate of boiled cauliflower. Even though I didn't say anything to the waiter, he did notice I wasn't eating anything from those courses, and he brought us an extra plate loaded down with Mustafarian bread and cheese, which was so kind. And honestly, I didn't even have much of an appetite at this meal. All the cumulative heavy meals were really getting to me, so I wasn't that bothered. Overall though, I really liked the menus. On the off chance I had left dinner hungry on Night 2, I could have just gone to the lounge and ordered some of those heavy apps and it would have been fine. One area where they really went above and beyond is that every single meal had unique items on offer. I thought the lunch on day 2 would be the same as lunch on day 1 because most guests go to eat in the theme park on day 2, so I would have kind of excused them for repeating a menu. But no, all new things. Same for breakfast on checkout day. I thought a lot of people are skipping breakfast and leaving. It'll probably be the same as yesterday's breakfast. Nope. New stuff. A couple favorite items returned, like the pastries and waffles, but most of the egg and meat options were unique. The muffin on the pastry plate is croissant dough filled with a tart passion fruit paste and was one of my favorite things on the whole spaceship. I wish I was eating it right now. So after all that stuff I just said, you might be surprised to hear that I have a pretty big complaint for this section of the video. I said I have no issue with the food, and I don't, but dinner on night 1 was a dinner show. And I have a bone to pick with the dinner show. This is the big Gaia performance they've been hyping up from the beginning. I should tell you that a lot of people are mad about the character of Gaia, probably because she was first introduced in an ad that was extremely weird and badly shot and acted. The main issue people had with Gaia is that she didn't feel Star Wars enough, and I'm ambivalent on that. I mean, she looks Star Wars because she's a Twi'lek. I agree that her songs are not that Star Wars because many of them are in English. I mean, her hit single is called Rockstar Queen. I would never have imagined that the word rockstar exists in the Star Wars universe. It barely even exists anymore on modern day Earth. But once they committed to having a live human singer, they were essentially forced to have the bulk of the lyrics be in a language she can understand and remember. She does have some songs with portions in Huttese, which is nice. Actually, I think Ula Shuka is entirely in Huttese. Also, Uwani brings us some alien squealing sounds for backing vocals, and that's fun. Initially, I was extremely disappointed when I learned that the dinner show wouldn't be a Chuck E. Cheese-esque animatronic band, which would have made the price tag of the whole thing worth it to me. But Uwani does have an animatronic head, so that's something. Some of the song lyrics are extremely hokey references to Star Wars things, like "Baby, let me light your Kyber," and there's a whole song about the power of coaxium. Honestly, I'm in favor of that. I wish they had just gone all in on that concept. Her song Gaia, which is one of my favorites, has a whole first verse where she's basically telling the audience her backstory, being born into slavery, working in the criminal underground, and then becoming a pop star. I love all that.
I wasn't chained to the sun, man. City slumming at the bottom of the line. I ran the streets with the twags, man. Purple stones were the only way I made my ride.
But then there are other lyrics in that same song that have no place in Star Wars. Singing my praise like a choir, deep pockets, I make it rain.
I'm heavy rolling, deep pockets everywhere 'cause I'm making rain.
These genuinely sound like placeholder lyrics they just put in the demo when they were figuring out the melody, like they were later meant to be replaced by something more thematic and clever, but then they just weren't. I personally think they could have put like an additional 3 hours of work into refining the lyrics. I think that would have made a big difference. You may have noticed that up until this point in my review, I haven't really been too preoccupied with how Star Wars the whole thing is. To be quite honest, I don't really care about that. I care about how good it is. I like themed experiences, period. This kind of weird, immersive LARP hotel concept would have been interesting to me, even if it was just an unlicensed venture and the theme was spaceship. So all that to say, I was kind of cautiously excited for this dinner show from an alien band. I thought at worst I might be a little underwhelmed, but I like shows, I like kitsch, I like aliens. I did a whole video years ago about how much I love Sunny Eclipse, the singing alien animatronic in Magic Kingdom's burger restaurant. I figured it would probably be kind of irreverent and dorky, but I like stuff like that. And I think on the whole, I probably would have liked this show. I say probably because I couldn't see the show because they sat me behind a pole.
Gaia.
Get over this. I really can't.
Now, I'm not accustomed to sharing the spotlight with dinner.
Dinner seating is pre-assigned. We didn't get a choice in this. The dining room has like a recessed center area where most of the seating is, and then around the perimeter of the room they have these elevated booths against the wall. And those two sections are separated by these fat support columns, which I don't even know if those serve a structural purpose. They might just be for atmosphere.
Okay, like, I'm sure it's fine, but this probably is the worst seat in the house, right? Yeah.
Well, it was the worst seat in the house, and it was not fine. I couldn't see a thing. I was at the very edge of the booth trying to peer out, and I couldn't see anything. My sister was at the back of the booth, all the way against the wall, trying to see around the other side of the pole, and her view was even worse. Gaia walked around the main dining area a couple times, so we could a little bit see the top of her head for some moments.
It's hypnotic, it's magnetic, it's life-changing, it's me.
In one song, she even came up on the outer perimeter and walked past our booth. But for literally 90% of the show, pole footage. I hope you guys like my quality pole footage. Just trust me, there's aliens singing behind that big old pole. Wani is my favorite character and the most whimsical, spacey thing happening in the show. But she had her weird alien instrument up on the stage, so she mostly stayed...
I do sympathize with Jenny here, but it is hilarious because ever since this video was released, it's been a common thing on the Jenny Nicholson subreddit to post their own views of like any event, like a concert, something, whatever, and they just get stuck behind a pole of some sort. And then they're just like, oh no, I've been Jenny Nicholson. Quality pole. Oh, I love that that's a thing now. It fills me with such glee. Other people's misery is my joy, I guess.
Planted
Don't
there.
think too
There's
hard
even
about
this
that.
choreography where they're like leaning back and forth, and it feels like they're making fun of me because they keep kind of leaning in view and then back away. I mentioned there's one song where Uwani makes alien sound backing vocals in the chorus. Well, I didn't realize she was doing that until I got home and watched other people's vlog footage because we couldn't see her face most of the time. At the time, I just thought it was like a synth noise on the track. I think it's really delightful that she's singing, so I wish I could have enjoyed that experience real time. To be frank, I think it's pathetic that I paid $6,000 to go to the Star Wars hotel, and I sat in the room where this show is happening, and I had to go on YouTube in order to see what was going on. Another guest replied to me on Twitter that was at the same table as me, and she was trying to be very glass half full about it. She was like, well, since I couldn't see from my table, I had to stand up and just go awkwardly, like, walk toward the stage and stand there the whole meal. And that was great because I had such a good view once I did that. And it's like, it's a dinner show. You're supposed to be seated and eating. I mentioned earlier that I failed to book the captain's table because I didn't know about it. So the captain's table experience is basically that you're in the center table down on the floor, and theoretically the captain will come by and hang out with you a bit. Or on different nights, it's different characters. Sometimes I think Lieutenant Croy sits with you for a minute. We could see the captain's table from afar, and it looked like they didn't actually get that much extra time with the characters. I've read that they also got a couple unique extra food items, but that's not a super big deal. But in my opinion, the main benefit to the captain's table is that you're positioned at a table where you'll definitely...
That's crazy. This happened when we were playing Loop Hero on Tuesday as well. Okay, hold. Let me just real quick. Because it worked fine yesterday. Let's just kind of do cute, quick, quirky little reload here. Okay. We good. We Gucci. We great. We so swell and fabulous. Okay. At least, you know, until it breaks again, which, knowing my stream that's held together with bubble gum and duct tape, this is bound to happen eventually. But anyway, until then, we go.
Definitely be able to see the show. So in my opinion, you kind of do have to book the captain's table. Like, it is necessary for a good experience. That's not the way it should be, but that's the way it is. and that makes me feel angry. When I go someplace like this and I know I'm doing a review, I don't have to feel like so much of an idiot when I waste a bunch of money because I know I'm gonna earn it back on the video anyway. So it does lend a sort of comedy of errors vibe when things go wrong. Like in a narrative sense, it is kind of funny that they put me behind a pole. Here she comes! Like, I didn't go on the media weekend. I was probably the only person in that whole room that was filming a review. They really played themselves here. But I have to admit, I genuinely was really disappointed that this happened. Part 9, Choose Your Own Adventure. Okay, let's get into the gameplay. First, let's recall how this was promoted as an interactive experience where you become the hero of your own Star Wars story. Choose your own team, choose your own path, live your Star Wars story.
And be wary of who you make allegiances with, because the choices you make affect the course of your journey and ultimately determines how your Star Wars story unfolds.
And it's your story.
That's right.
It's your story.
And live out all the different storylines.
They get to choose who they want to be loyal to.
The story will depend on what you do. Choose your own path.
As a passenger, you get to choose your own path. Do you join the Resistance? Do you join the First Order? Are you a scoundrel? There's a love story on board.
Do you want to help the light side of the Force? Do you want to tap into your dark side?
We're going to invite guests to become the hero of their own Star Wars adventure, and you can do it in whatever way you like.
Ad materials showed kids helping Chewbacca or snitching Chewbacca out to the cops and getting him arrested. The possibilities are endless. That was probably the most advertised aspect of the experience, that you would choose between a number of branching paths. As it got closer to launch, it became clearer what those paths were going to be. First Order, Resistance, or Smuggler. I've seen some people say Jedi was also a path, and I would argue that it was not. You could unlock a couple Jedi scenes, but they were tangential to whatever main path you were already on. They weren't their own story track. So first I'm going to tell you how all this is supposed to work to the best of my knowledge. The gameplay is actually split into two halves, actor-based gameplay and app-based gameplay. The small cast of actors are the NPCs for this experience, the non-player characters. Each individual character has their own schedule set in stone, and then there is a corresponding, seemingly algorithm-driven app working in tandem with the human performers, which is why this schedule is so important. The same computer program that's organizing the actors is also guiding the itinerary of the hotel guests. You can interact with the characters in person, but you also use the app to receive text messages from them. So obviously these texts aren't really coming from the actor, they're from the app, and you can reply with a menu of choices from a dialogue tree to get pre-written answers. In this way, you can build affiliations with different characters, which theoretically sets you on one of the available story paths. I feel like my viewers know that whenever I use the word theoretical, things are about to take a turn.
Yep.
This information has not been publicly released, but allegedly the actors have some way of syncing real time to the data in the app. Allegedly, this may be done via earpieces. I said earlier that all the guests are wearing these little wristbands with RFID chips, so allegedly the characters all have proximity readers wired into their clothing. When you approach them, their reader detects your bracelet, identifies your profile in the app, and then their earpiece can feed them information about you. So we don't know exactly what would be said in these alleged earpieces, but for example, maybe it says, trust level high, and then the actor knows to greet you warmly. They could even use this tech to remind the actors of your name if they wanted to. The proximity readers could also theoretically send data back to the app, so if you spent a long time interacting with a particular character, that would boost your trust score with them and impact your story path. So let's say you've been texting a lot in the app with the AI version of the First Order General. The AI can ask you if you want to help him in his mission. You can say yes. The app can assign you tasks that don't require any actor involvement, like check that computer terminal for me, and then track whether you fulfill these tasks. The app knows the actor's schedules, so the AI version of the General can text you, meet me in the atrium at 4:30, knowing that the actor will actually be there at that time. Then when you see the actor, his earpiece tells him, name, Jenny, trust level, 80%. And then the actor knows to say, Jenny, you've been very helpful to me. Well done, thus marrying the two halves of the gameplay in a way that feels seamless on the user end. From there, the characters you've been loyal to can pull you into unique in-person story moments to involve you further.
Oh, here's me tricking some stormtroopers into going into the brig so that we could lock them inside.
Day 1's schedule is already programmed in for you before you arrive. You'll have training on the bridge, lightsaber training, and be seated for one of 2 possible dinner times. And in between those activities, you're meant to be utilizing the app and talking with the AI versions of the characters. You may also have interactions with the actors while doing so. At the end of Day 1, the app checks all your loyalty scores to figure out which story path you're on. It then uses that information to create your Day 2 schedule, which is more personalized and storyline specific. So when you wake up, you'll see that you already have mission assignments waiting for you for the side you're affiliated with, and you'll also be put in corresponding story scenes. So for example, if you're on the First Order side, you might be asked to locate contraband cargo, and then be dropped into a couple First Order cutscenes, and maybe they even mention the cargo as a reward for the task you completed. Or maybe you'll get invited to a meeting with the stormtroopers, or see the general get a call from the Supreme Leader, or something like that, something that makes you feel more directly involved with the story. I imagine there are probably 5 or 6 possible cutscenes running for each story path, so the app just schedules you into, let's say, 2 of those per person. Then everyone gets the same finale, which is a big performance in the atrium and wraps up all the story threads. And if you've been a particularly proactive player, there are moments when the actors can shout you out by name, integrated into the finale. That all sounds conceptually very clever, and if it works, sounds like a pretty fun experience, right? I think so too. Part 10, living my Star Wars story. Okay, so I'm going to be frank, the gameplay did not work for us at all. At some point, there was some kind of critical logistical failure which broke every aspect of it. I was continually frustrated the entire time I was there, and I left extremely disappointed. In our particular experience, none of the actions we took at any point directed the course of our story in any way, and I have guesses as to how that happened, but I'm gonna get to that later. So, here's how it went for us. I knew going in that I wanted to pick one story path because that would be the best way to gauge how well the experience works. They say it's a choose your own adventure, so I would attempt to choose. A while before the trip, I decided that I was pretty set on getting First Order because it had been met with the most skepticism as a story path, and also Disney is a family experience and presumably motivated not to have a losing team, so I was very curious how they would handle a villain side of the story. So at first when they turned us loose in the ship, I had no idea what to do with myself. They don't really give you any guidance, which I was initially optimistic about because I'm a pretty big escape room enthusiast, and you're pretty much always dropped into those cold, and then you just figure out what you're supposed to do through environmental clues. I figured they would probably be using the RFID bracelets as part of the gameplay, and I envisioned there being loads of like tap points that you have to hunt for. So like maybe if you tapped a panel in the captain's area, you could download a secret file, or you could tap a touchpad next to an item to add that item to your inventory, and then you could use it later. So I guess I was envisioning something like a point-and-click adventure game, but in real life.
Freddy Fish!
Found another purple sea urchin.
We played Freddy Fish here before.
You know, like the NPCs ask you to fetch something for them, and then you explore a ship full of set dressing details and Easter eggs. Maybe you see an access card glued to a table, tap your band on it to collect it, and then you gain the ability to open a new door. Or you read a clue in a memo posted on a wall, and then text the code word to the proper character in the app, and then they give you your next task. Through that, I feel you could have some sense of discovery and forward momentum. I'm picturing something like, you need the Kyber crystal, but it fell in a crate with the alien frog monster and he's guarding it. You'll need to get the droid parts to trade for the Jogan fruit to distract the alien. And then once you've collected the Jogan fruit by tapping your band on it, you tap your band next to the frog's cage, the little frog animatronic wiggles around and makes eating sounds, and it backs away from a prop of a Kyber crystal, which you can see through the bars of the cage, and then the app is like, you got the crystal. Sorry, Skippy heard me saying the name of his favorite snack. I had to go get one for him. I imagine the kind of gameplay I'm describing would also inspire a cooperative spirit between the guests. Are you helping the Saja? Have you found the droid processor? Sure, friend. It's over here. That's what they walk like. But no, they didn't have anything like that in the gameplay. They did have an item collecting mechanic, but it was bad. See, the app they had us using is actually an extension of an existing Disney app, the Disney Parks Play app. This app was heavily promoted in the early days of Galaxy's Edge because they said you could use the app for interactive gameplay in the land. They called it the Star Wars Datapad Experience. You probably haven't heard of it because nobody ever talks about it because it isn't any fun.
Okay, wait, something's gonna happen.
It did nothing.
Okay. That was your reward.
It's just so quiet.
It made a little
It's so quiet.
You got $9.
Why don't they blast the volume on this?
You know, in Rogue One, when they have to go out and then hack a panel and receive $9. Do you think anything's gonna move or happen? I'm beginning to lose hope.
It's the same sound.
Yeah.
Courtyard antenna.
Oh, maybe it'll do something.
Yeah, please do something. Maybe it's just not working yet.
I got it! Oh, jeez!
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Basically, all it lets you do is scan QR codes on crates scattered around Star Wars land.
Wait, there's loads of cargo.
So many things to scan.
You'll scan one, and the app will present you with a
We're
rudimentary
so
puzzle.
excited
and when you
about
solve it, it'll be
scanning
like, there's a
things.
hyperdrive in this crate. And superficially, the hyperdrive will be added to the inventory in your profile. You can't do anything with it, so, you know, that's it. That's the game. It's like collecting virtual postage stamps. So anyway, since the Star Cruiser app is built out of the Star Wars Datapad game, they also have crates in the hotel with QR codes on them. So if you like, you may scan those crates. I wouldn't really call this part of the gameplay, it was just something you could do. As in the theme park land, you can't use the items later, they're not connected to the story, and I've seen no evidence that they affect loyalty scores or anything else. There's no find the key, find the antidote, trade this item away to the NPC to get the item you need. It was just busy work, or maybe you could call it Easter eggs if you get joy from seeing small icons on your phone of things from Star Wars. But I assumed this part of the gameplay was just put in to occupy the really little kids who wouldn't sense the futility of what they were doing. I noticed immediately that there are these computer terminals throughout the ship. I think there are 6 to 8 of them total, and I believe they all work the same as each other. They just have multiple so they can be used by more guests simultaneously. But like, you don't have different options at different terminals, they're all the same. By the way, the terminals are not touch screens. They use a few large buttons that are below the screen. Touch screens probably would have taken too much wear and tear, so that's fine. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just mentioning this because you'll notice in my footage that every time I walk up to the screens, I start trying to slap my fingers against them. I just feel like it makes me look kind of stupid, and I know someone that's been is gonna remark on how I'm doing it wrong, so I'm getting ahead of that now. It's reflex, I promise. I did also use the buttons. It's just often when I'm slapping the screen, that's when my camera is pointed at the screen. My camera is looking where my fingers are slapping. That's how I film everything. I slap everything. You just don't see it because I edit around it. Okay, anyway, moving on. You tap your band first to begin utilizing a terminal, which at first seemed promising. These terminals are presented in story like they're intended for the guests. Like they show the map of the ship and other innocuous stuff, but then there's also a password locked section of the computer that you're clearly supposed to break into.
Enter access code.
Let's hack it. Let's hack it.
Okay, what do you think the access code is?
Jenny, you have to earn it.
But how?
It's a hack.
But how?
Okay, I found the first thread to pull at, the first puzzle to solve. I figured if there's a password, there's a way to get the password. We must have to look around. Maybe it's written down, like it's on a post-it next to the captain's chair. Maybe we have to talk to the captain. Maybe she uses her pet's name as the password. Maybe there's a clue hidden in one of the plaques next to all these artifacts in the atrium, or a puzzle we can unscramble.
During the...
No.
I'm a little rusty. I'm a little rusty.
You're just showing.
Yeah. Dedication. During the ship's dedication.
I found out later that that's not the case. According to other players' accounts, sometimes when you tap your band on the terminal next to the computer and try to go in the restricted files, you then receive a text in your app from the smuggler character. He says something to the effect of, "It looks like you're trying to hack into the terminal. You must be sneaky like me. Let me give you the password and you can help me with a job." And yeah, then he just tells you the password. It's kind of anticlimactic in a way I don't like. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but to me that doesn't really feel like earning the password. Imagine if a video game worked like that. Like you try to open a door, you find that it's locked, and then an NPC immediately sprints over and just hands you the key. I wouldn't even really call that gameplay. I actually saw some fans saying online that this is how you triggered the smuggler storyline. They were like, if you want to be a smuggler, first thing, go to the computer terminal and try to get into the restricted files. Then you'll get a text from Wraith Cole. And no, you won't. I did that, and that didn't happen. And some people online tried to victim blame me when I pointed that out and were like, no, you have to do it first thing. And like, I don't know, I feel like I did it pretty much as soon as gameplay started. In my opinion, it seems like sometimes it happens and sometimes it just doesn't. And if it doesn't, you just don't have the password, sorry. This also undermines any ability for guests to work together, like I was saying earlier would be cute.
Wait, what's this? What is this? Steering wheel. Oh! Don't get hit by the car. It almost killed me. Oh my god. Oh, sorry.
In fact, at one point we asked these other passengers how they'd ended up on their mission thread, and they were so nice. They literally dropped what they were doing and walked us physically over to the computer they had used and tried to walk us through all the same steps they had taken. And when we did the same thing, it didn't work for us, so we gave up. I saw a lot of this online, guests confidently telling others the exact action to perform to get a certain outcome, but anecdotally, it doesn't seem like the game works that way. It seems like it's actually a lot more luck-based than many of the participants realize. So we felt we had very quickly hit a dead end, and worse yet, we could see other players around us who had gotten the text with the computer password, or at least had gotten some other intro point to the story.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, we just hacked in.
Was it hard?
It was easy.
There were kids happily tapping away at the restricted files, and I'm just standing in the middle of the atrium like, what did I miss? What am I doing wrong?
I don't understand what people are doing. Class? It's 4 letters.
Yeah.
South.
Thank you.
I don't know. How did they get in? I'm so confused. I feel like we're missing something.
It just made me think there was some obvious clue I had failed to find, which was really demoralizing.
It's just like everyone has like deep missions and I don't even know what they're doing. Oh, we're supposed to touch this for good luck. Okay, we did it. Maybe that'll help.
There are so many points in my footage where I'm just wandering aimlessly, wondering aloud what to do. You'll recall this experience is $2 per person per minute, so just keep that in mind. At some point, having hit a dead end in both the app and the computers, we just kind of started doing laps around the ship, hoping we'd encounter an activity.
Are we missing something? See, people are like hacking and stuff. I already feel behind. Do you think the climate simulator's still open? Well, I guess it's the same other thing going on. I don't know if there'd be something going on, but I want to get in the cargo room. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. Oh, we could take the elevator. We haven't done that yet.
I should have just taken the fire extinguisher off the wall and started spraying it around. You know, make my own fun. Occasionally we'd see a computer where a kid had accidentally stayed signed in, and we could see all the stuff that had been unlocked for them and presume that probably that represented some fun story thing they got to do, which made us feel even worse.
Christopher didn't log out and he has the access to the alarms. Brig access. And I guess you guessed the last one. And he's not into the cargo hold either. Well, all right. I want in that cargo hold.
Other than using them to log into the computer terminals, there wasn't actually much functionality to the bracelets. There's a tap point on the droid, which is fun. I tapped my band on him, but I don't think anything happened when I did that. Also, a lot of Star Cruiser nerds are gonna be like, that tap point doesn't do anything unless you ask his permission first, and he likes you, so this is a skill issue. But I did ask permission first. I have proof. I didn't even have to be told to do that. I'm just polite to droids, so there. But anyway, yeah, it didn't do anything. There were also the rooms with restricted access, like the engineering bay and the cargo hold. You would tap your bracelet on the pad next to the door and it would say, access denied. That was very tantalizing because it suggested you could accomplish something to unlock that room, like a real-life video game.
We take a lot of tools from screen-based RPGs and move them into the physical space. So we have literal locked doors. So we know that they're locked in a couple ways. That's an invitation if you're in a screen-based RPG, and also in our experience, to try and get into a locked door. There's something interesting on the other side of that door.
It's actually just like the computer password. After enough time passes, you'll get a text from a character, and it seems like it's random which one, and the character will be like, hey, I've got a job for you. Go to the engineering bay. I'm giving you access, and then you just have access. Also, near the end of day one, we noticed that the restricted files on the computer just stopped requiring a password.
Look, I'm in the restricted systems. I'm authorized now. Wow. We
still can't get in the cargo hold though.
And when we looked, there wasn't like anything to do. Like they showed switches to shut off various systems, and I thought, I guess if you're on the right story path, you might have an opportunity to use that and trigger a cool story event. But we weren't, so it wasn't interactive. We could just like look at the menu, but not do anything with it.
Look, I can sound the alarm. Aw, I can't.
Oh, see, this is how I would have opened the door. Not that it matters now.
It seemed like the door locks worked that way too. Eventually they just gave us access to the engineering room. And actually the app didn't even tell us that it happened. We had to notice on our own.
I bet I can get into this. Well, maybe it'll just let me in now. Wait, yeah.
It all just felt so arbitrary. While exploring, we would occasionally run into characters, and we tried to take every available opportunity to talk to them. And just in case our interactions might affect our storyline, I wanted to be polite, but make it clear that we were on the First Order path.
We really want to identify the issue, cut out the rot, as it were, and then let everyone get on with their vacation.
I'm always saying cut out the rot.
That is something you're always saying.
I'm always saying
You're
that.
always saying that. Is that. Do you work with fruit? Is that something?
Yes. Yeah, but I'm also referring to like fugitives and things like that.
Of course.
Yeah.
When I talked to the captain, who I could tell was connected to the Resistance path, I emphasized that I was afraid the Resistance fugitives would ruin my luxurious trip, which doesn't sound very heroic to me. We never talked to Sammy, the main Resistance hero, because he was really popular with the kids and he was constantly swarmed.
Are you guys smuggling luggage?
No, guy is not here. We just showed up in the atrium.
It looks like you're smuggling some kind of luggage.
No, we're putting it in the cargo. This is the cargo hold.
We never talked to the smuggler, Wraith Cole. I didn't want to talk to him because I didn't want the smuggler storyline, but we also just organically never had an opportunity to talk to him. We talked to Gaia and Uwani a lot, and I think they're both affiliated with the smuggler storyline, but we only really talked about Gaia's music, and neither of them ever asked us for anything.
Very excited for Gaia tonight.
Gaia,
¿Qué con Kuta?
What's your favorite song?
Buddha?
Yeah, what's your favorite song?
I mean, I liked her like when she was just single songs on the HoloNet.
I hope she plays Rockstar Queen, her new single. Oh, we'll see you.
Wow. I don't know how you talk
I believe Lieutenant Croy was the only actor affiliated with the First Order storyline, but we did bump into him several times, and every time we tried to be very direct. We supported his mission, those Resistance fugitives sounded frightening, we wanted to help.
If we notice anything, what should we do?
Well, obviously report it to myself or one of the stormtroopers, although I suspect she'll get more sense out of me.
Likewise, we both texted Croy in the app, hoping to double our chances. At one point I thought I was making real progress because the AI of Croy directly asked, "Can I trust you to help the First Order?" And of course I clicked yes. But then he just stopped texting me. He ghosted me. It was so embarrassing. While we were eating dinner on night 1, Lindsay did receive a text in the app from Lieutenant Croy asking her to go to the engineering room right away and scan some schematic for him or something. Obviously, we couldn't at that moment because we were eating a formal multi-course dinner with a show, theoretically. And in my opinion, it's a little weird the app sent us that because, like, the app knew we were at dinner, right? Like, the dinner was at a specific time and for a set duration, and that was loaded into the schedule before anything else. But I figured maybe that meant the task wasn't time sensitive and we would just go when we got the chance. In the middle of the dinner show, Sammy showed up with Chewbacca, trying to smuggle him across the dining room without the First Order noticing. This was our first direct encounter with Sammy. When he reached our table, we tried to get in his way and get Lieutenant Croy's attention.
No, this is just a normal Wookiee named Tom. He's just...
God, it's so scary.
No, it's okay. No, don't be scared.
He and Chewbacca did get caught, which was obviously a pre-scripted event that happens on every cruise, but it's the thought that counts. Sorry, I know my footage isn't very good, but Chewbacca is getting arrested behind that pole. Then when our check came, the waiter was like, "It looks like there's something extra with your check." And it was a torn up piece of a secret message, which was very exciting. We realized that the 2 tables next to us also received pieces of the message, and I thought we'd have to put all our pieces together to get the message, which would be a fun bit of cooperative play. But when we put them together, we realized that it was unnecessary because they all contained equivalent information. I also looked around the room and I think I saw at least one other trio of tables that got these notes. For all I know, everybody got them, or maybe people got different ones from different characters. The secret message turned out to be, weirdly, from Sammy. He was like, "Meet me at 9:40 p.m. in the atrium. I'm trying to get Chewbacca out of jail and I need your help." And I'm like, "Our help? We're the ones that got you into this mess." Clearly we had been put on the Resistance path, which made no sense. But frankly, after an evening of non-starters, I was just happy to have any task at all. And it sounded like we were getting some kind of exclusive story moment, so of course we decided we should go. But when the time came, on our way to the atrium to meet Sammy, who should we run into in the stairwell but Chewbacca? Already walking around free, and a gaggle of kids around him. I'm not sure if they handed out dozens of those secret notes or if this was just the crowd of kids that always follows Sammy around. According to my footage's metadata, this clip was filmed 3 minutes before the time we were supposed to meet Sammy in the atrium. So we weren't super early, but we wouldn't have been late. So I don't know what happened with Chewbacca. I guess they started early or something. Honestly, it must have been pretty early because, like, he had been in the brig downstairs. We were gonna meet in the atrium, all walk down to the brig, get him out. But when we saw him, he was coming down the stairs, which means at some point he had already been broken out of the brig, gone up to the atrium, and was now descending again. And presumably in that time, a meeting happened to discuss how they were going to break Chewbacca out. So, like, what, did they start 40 minutes early? But anyway, it seemed like the exciting part was already over. And it was so crowded, we had no hope of getting a word with anybody anyway. So we just headed out. No big deal. I guess we weren't even trying to get that storyline. It just would have been nice to do something. Next, we decided to try following up on that text we had gotten during dinner from Croy. So we went back downstairs to the engineering bay to scan the thing that he wanted. When we got there, we were really surprised to see that the Croy actor was actually physically there. I'm immediately optimistic that this is going to put us in some story moment. So I'm just like, Chewbacca is walking free. I'm sorry, I never liked Chewbacca. I have no reason to keep his secrets. But Croy is just like, why should I trust you?
We saw him in the brig, and then he was walking around. It was the weirdest thing.
I see. You've come here to further the cause of the younglings who've been trying to run me around the houses.
Oh.
No,
we really saw it.
But you will not get one around me this time.
Wow. And like, come on, dude, we're on your side. But obviously the actor doesn't know that. It's not really his fault. And obviously he hasn't got a job for us. I figured at the time maybe the actors just aren't fully aware what's going on in the app, but whatever. We can at least do what the AI version of Croy wanted from us. Neither of us remembered exactly what that entailed, so I asked Lindsay to look at the app again, but when she pulled open her text thread with Croy, the text in question had actually been deleted.
What should we do? What was the task in the app for you?
Yeah, I can pull it out. It's weird because it kind of like, I think it like overrode.
Maybe it's because we took too long to act on it, but if that mattered, why would it have sent it to us in the middle of a dinner that it knew we were at? Isn't that the whole point of the micromanaged schedule and the app and everything? So why would it have given us that task if it knew we couldn't complete it in time? I think that's probably another clue that the technology was not working as it should. So with nothing to do, we poked around a little in the engineering bay, and then we got bored and we left.
We should do these, whatever they are. Oh wait, we'll do something.
I really felt like I couldn't catch a break all day. Mind you, at this point the $6,000 experience was already half over, and I felt like I hadn't even been able to dip my toes into the story. Just thwarted at every turn. Even watching back my footage now is secondhand frustrating because I so viscerally remember spending the whole day so badly wanting to engage with the game I had been promised and not being able to. Like I said, I had hoped to be First Order, but really I'd been prepared to say yes to anything a character asked me. But obviously I hadn't been given anything to say yes to, and whenever I thought I was being given an intro into some plot thread, it didn't work out for one reason or another. Not only did I feel like I was barred from participating, I was even barred from watching. By a literal bar. After the characters went to bed and we returned to our room, Lindsay noticed that in the app there's a tab with all the different characters. It tracks how familiar they are with you and how much they trust you, so I would imagine it's scored based on how long you spend interacting with them in person and in the app, and then whether you respond to them positively or negatively. And this screen really explained the day I was having. Okay, so mine looked like this. You'll notice that my trust score with literally every character was neutral, so despite my best efforts, it was basically as if I hadn't been playing at all. Okay, now let's look at my familiarity scores, which are even more interesting to me. Lenka Mock and Wraith Cole look about right. They both say low familiarity. I was briefly greeted by Lenka Mock and I never spoke to Wraith Cole at all, so that makes sense to me. Sasha says medium familiarity, and I only met her once at lightsaber training, but she did ask me my name and interact with me a couple times, so okay, I guess that feels medium. But Lieutenant Croy also says medium, even though I've been trying to talk to him all day, both on the app and in person. And there was that time I pledged my loyalty to him and he left me on red. My familiarity with Sammy was high, even though I hadn't exchanged words with him ever at any point. Meanwhile, my familiarity score with Captain Keevan was low, even though I'd made pleasant small talk with her at least 3 separate times that day. In the app, the AI version of Captain Keevan actually sent me a text that night saying, "Sorry, I know we haven't gotten much time together today." But yes, we have! What's going on here? When we woke up on day 2 and it had given us all our missions, we had a few different options. We had texts from Sammy, Captain Kevin, and Saja. And you'll notice that not only do those missions not line up with how I'd been trying to play out the story, they don't even really make sense with my stats in the app. At that point, we just had to surrender ourselves to the idea that nothing in the story was going to make sense and try to invest ourselves in the path we had been arbitrarily placed onto for the time we had left. Okay, so why did this happen? What broke? I have a few guesses. Scenario 1, the gameplay didn't actually work at all for anyone, and it was a big scam. You're all just assigned to a story path at random. With only 3 major story threads, it's possible that for some guests, their story path would match up with the actions they're taking by pure coincidence. The broken clock being right twice a day kind of thing. Confirmation bias would then convince them that the story was a direct result of their actions. They get a message from the Resistance and say, wow, that must be because I told Captain Kevin I was a fan of Princess Leia, but in actuality, it's just what would have happened anyway, predetermined by an algorithm. That would be obviously pretty bad. I have seen other guests with the same feedback as me, that they consciously tried to get one specific path and it didn't work at all and they left disappointed, but I don't have like statistical data on how often this occurred, and I highly doubt Disney will ever release that information, if they even tracked it at all. So it's impossible to really know. But I think if this problem was more widespread, it would have become more apparent, so I'm going to charitably rule this one out. Scenario 2. The gameplay worked for the majority of guests, but each story path had a finite number of players it could accommodate, and so the algorithm was trained to move some players into open slots in the schedule, regardless of their story choices. The idea here is that we were just the sacrificial lambs of our trip, shuffled into open spots to maintain even distribution of guests across all story scenes, at the expense of our own experience, but facilitating other people's choose-your-own-adventure gameplay. The idea of this one makes me so angry. Like, I would be so upset if I found out that at this price point they were knowingly sacrificing the interactivity for some unlucky guests just to keep the game running smoothly. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all to find out that this was the case, especially considering they designed the dining room so that some unlucky tables were behind poles. Scenario 3,
I hope you're doing so
random
very
glitch.
swell, and I'm
It worked
so
for some
sorry we're
people,
not doing
it didn't
Date
work for other
Everything
people,
today.
Bad luck, etc. This is my main theory. It coincides really well with what I've heard about the way the app worked in tandem with the actors. I mean, I showed you our loyalty scores, and it certainly appears that ours wasn't tracking
Can't get my
anything we
shit
did
together.
at all. The designers probably programmed in some kind of grandma mode, where a guest who doesn't participate in the gameplay at all and just sleeps in the room all day is randomly assigned a story path in case they want to play later. It seems to me like whatever actions we took in the app or in person, the system just wasn't registering it ever. So maybe the app saw a lack of data, put us in grandma mode, and then randomly put us on the Resistance path. I don't know how such a critical failure could happen, and
doing
honestly,
so
this
great.
one makes me pretty
Appreciate
mad
you
to think
hanging
about
out.
too. Like, for an experience that's so dependent on an app, glitches do feel inevitable. To be honest, anyone who's familiar with Disney parks will know that they're extremely bad at building apps and always have tons of glitches. But in the theme parks, the apps just determine whether you can get through the turnstiles in a timely fashion, or if you can book your next fast pass. On the Star Cruiser, the app determines whether your $6,000 experience will work at all in the way it was advertised to, or whether you'll be sitting on the sidelines all day with nothing to do. In my opinion, if this glitch is something that could happen, they needed a better failsafe. Like, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe if the system detected 0 input from a player, it could flag that as a problem in the system, at which point a human employee could try to intervene and gauge what story that person was trying to do. And, you know, make sure by brute force that they got put in some kind of story event. Ideally, I think this concierge employee should have been dressed as Yoda and kind of shamble in like a scary suit and be like, no, I must. With which side do your loyalties lie? I'm always just looking for an excuse to do my Yoda impression because it's so good. Having a person intervene would obviously be a little immersion breaking and
So good.
kind of a clunky solution, but it's better than what they had, which was no solution at all. I heard after my trip that a lot of guests had similar problems to us. One mom that went with her kids said that on day 2 she went to the front desk in tears and pointed out that their story mechanic wasn't working. And then she said the people at the front desk basically just pulled out a tablet and were like, I'm so sorry, just tell us what story scenes you want to be in and we'll put you in those. And it's good to know that such a solution existed, but obviously by the time you get to that point, the experience you've been sold on has already been ruined, because that's not immersive. Also, because of the nature of the experience and the cost of it, most of your guests are going to be there for their first and only time. So it's probably going to take them a while to even realize that something is objectively wrong. It certainly didn't occur to us that we could
It
go
was
to the
like 2
front desk
days.
about this.
By the time you
so we were
realize
just
it,
kind
you're
of
like,
like,
what?
hey, the game
Mostly
didn't
through your
work.
second day?
The thing that was central to this entire experience, it was broken for us.
Sorry, I'm
and we
eating a
can't get a
sandwich.
refund or come back.
lunchtime.
It's just ruined. And that really sucks. And that was our experience. I also need to point out, in the interest of transparency, that many of the people brought out for press and influencer marketing actually didn't experience the gameplay. They were given an abridged presentation of the story and then dropped into a play scene. And from what I can tell, they didn't interact with the app at all.
Now we only get 4 hours aboard, so it is going to be a bit of an abbreviated experience.
For those of you with blue wristbands, you will go to lightsaber training with our incredible Saja. And those of you with white wristbands will meet your group leader for your first activity.
So you're taking on the role of First Order loyalist for this next scene, right?
We're jumping around a little bit in the timeline, so we're on day 2, and Lieutenant Croy, who you guys just saw board the ship, has sent us a message on our data pad, and after we visited Batuu, we are going to meet him.
We're skipping back in time by a few hours. You maybe haven't totally decided your allegiance yet, but you've been invited to join in the ship's activities. Now, the Saja have more to their stories than what you're seeing here. In fact, all of our characters do. And that's something that our guests can discover, of course, when they're here aboard the Halcyon.
Some influencers did experience the full-length stay, but not all of them. It was sort of a pecking order. Only the biggest publications and influencers with the highest follower counts got to do the whole thing. And not to name names, but I did notice some familiar faces in the background of the videos of the abridged experience who later claimed on their own social media that they did the full thing, which feels a little deceptive. But what else should we expect from a channel that buys subscribers? I can say that. You're never going to figure out who I'm talking about. So I guess my point
Name and
is,
shame.
just be a cautious consumer of any influencer
Name and
reviews,
shame them
except mine.
binges.
Also, for the record, this makes me really angry. Ooh, a lot is making me angry in this section. This is like if you toured a gourmet restaurant and the chef gave you only
just
the
in
dessert.
this section.
And then before bringing out the dessert,
Sounds
he
like an
said,
angry
to provide
experience
some
as a
context,
whole.
the guests eating this dessert will have
TBH.
just enjoyed an amazing dinner. And then you go home and write a review like, this restaurant is fantastic. After an amazing dinner, we ate a delicious dessert. You should definitely spend $6,000 to eat at this restaurant. Honestly, how dare they? I'm just gonna get angrier as it goes, and we're only halfway. Part 11, main attractions. The main selling point of Star Cruiser is meant to be the immersion, or in a broader sense, the choose your own adventure interactivity. But that could be a little hard to market. So most of the ads focused on 2 activities that happen on the ship, which are basically mini games. This was a horrible idea because in the promotional material, both of these experiences looked lame as hell. Like, if they were added as a kids activity to the theme
Also, can I
park
say
free
she
with
always does
admission,
all these
people would
costume
probably think
changes?
they were cute, but given the infamous price
especially for
tag on
this
the Star
particular
Cruiser,
video,
the unanimous reaction was,
just
that's it?
chef's
So,
kiss.
let's cover both of the activities. First, I'll go over bridge training. Everyone does this at least twice. The first one, which is the training session, is already on your schedule before you arrive. A crew member divides you into groups and you rotate through each of the 4 different control modules. There are gunners, shields, loaders, and engineering. For gunners, obviously you're going to be shooting at stuff on the big screen.
So you're gonna aim, I'm gonna fire when you're on the target. How's our leaking process going? It's great.
The screen for this task looks awful. There are so many targeting reticles and random garbage to shoot all over the screen. But this is probably still the most desirable task of the 4 because you do get to game on the big screen.
Let's take a look at your metrics.
Loaders also work using the big screen, but it's like a crane game where you're trying to grab stuff out of space.
Activate grabbing. Oh, you're flying, I'm grabbing. Ooh.
You work together in a pair, so one person is driving and the other person is rotating and grabbing.
Let's grab teams.
Yes.
Shields have their own display, and I would compare it to Team Pong. Everyone is sliding their shields from left to right to protect the center area from missiles. Even though it's a simple game, I do think the table you play it at is visually cool looking. Engineering, you're just looking at the little screen in front of you and toggling switches.
Whoa.
Practice crease launch photo to maneuver. All right, attention on deck. Pull my eyes.
Basically, they show certain switch positions on the screen, and you just have to toggle the switches in front of you to match those.
If you have any questions, that is probably the hardest one to do.
Jess and Brooke will be walking around, okay? No worries.
Wait,
And
did
then
he give us
last
any
but not least,
instructions? He was just like, you're gonna
good
push
job.
buttons.
Keep
That's
your
the hardest
shield
one.
switched on
Anyway.
by that green bar
Moving on.
that indicate how
Incoming station control training code.
Okay, what the hell are we doing? Okay, you just push the ones that light up. Mash the light buttons.
This was definitely the most boringest one. Oh, and at one point during this activity, one chosen kid gets to punch it and send the ship to light speed. I think it's funny how much the marketing made of the punch it moment. Like, we've all always wanted to be told to punch it and then punch it to light speed. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. I think when characters say punch it in the movies, it's memorable and exciting because they're usually in some action scene and you know that they're about to go really fast. Maybe it would feel more thrilling if there was a physical consequence to punching it, like if we were in a really aggressive motion simulator that's going to lurch excitingly, but obviously we are not. It's more of like a photo op for the family of the kid who's doing it than like a thing that's actually fun to do. At some point during your training, something goes wrong to make it more exciting, and what that is depends on the time slot you're scheduled in, because remember, every element of the story is running on a common timeline.
We've received a priority alert signal from the resistance.
Priority alert, that means it's an urgent message or it could be a warning. Yes, we can't have resistance.
So it sounds like sometimes you run into enemy ships and have to defend yourself, sometimes you get a secret transmission from the resistance, but I believe the most common thing is that you run into an asteroid field.
Asteroid, forget to grab them! What?
Likely to intersect the trajectory.
We're going to have to
Grab all of them!
The reason I believe that is, all the windows on the Star Cruiser are synchronized to one another. The Imagineers were very proud of this element in the marketing. No matter where you are on the ship, the view out your window will reflect the view outside all the other windows. So, if you're in your room looking out the window, you'll start to notice that approximately every 45 minutes you're in another asteroid field. On the whole, I thought this minigame was pretty fun. Each of the positions plays differently, and I think it's nice that every group gets to try every station. You don't just get stuck at an unfun one and have to stay there. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve.
Do we do that?
We were so fast though! And the cast member walking us through it was like visibly annoyed by how people kept screwing up their instructions, walking to the wrong station, and mashing random buttons. I don't know who was doing that.
One more time, that'll be front to side, side to mid-deck, mid-deck to back, back down the ramp to the front.
But it's high energy and it doesn't last so long that you get bored with it.
The Porky system.
Quirky. It's time to do a thing in the quirky system.
On day 2, having taught you how to use each of the bridge stations, they bring you back for another story event. Sometimes 2, depending on how your story plays out, because the day 2 bridge missions are meant to be specific to your story path.
Yeah, SK does have data, vital information for the survival of the resistance.
Oh my goodness.
So we can't
Look at the alien movies.
Oh my god, very different vibes in the different rooms. They don't even know the danger.
The first order goes about like waxing. And he knows that
So if you're on the resistance side, you help shoot at the First Order blockade. If you're a smuggler, you help grab some cargo to smuggle aboard. Since there's no longer the story pretense of training, it appears on your schedule like, the captain would like to speak to you on the bridge at 3 p.m. Then you tap your band at the door to confirm you're one of the, 30-ish people who unlocked this scene. These later bridge scenes were much more fun because they didn't have to go over logistics anymore. Everyone has already had their demo round, they know how all the stations work, so your captain can just yell, "Rotate stations!" and everyone is ready to jump into the mini games.
you can do it!
As far as the gameplay, I'm sure you've already gathered that it's extremely basic, more primitive than anything you can get on your phone. Like, if this gameplay was just put in an arcade cabinet at a Dave & Buster's, nobody would even want to play it. But obviously, they've dressed it up. You're in a cool spaceship room with a big window into space, and they've got live actors coming in to impress upon you the stakes of what you're doing.
The Resistance starts to analyze the hyperspace tracking system. They can find a way to defeat it.
So with all this in mind, it's fine. People who do it will like it well enough. I don't think it's much to write home about, but it was a fine enough gameplay element for this kind of experience. And for my sister and I, it was pretty much the only time we got to participate in the story, so we were just excited to be doing something. Okay, next we'll look at lightsabers. This was the other one pushed hard in the ads. This training is taught by the Saja. Obviously, it's weird that Jedi training, which has largely been framed in the movies as special and spiritual, is now being offered as a cruise ship activity like it's shuffleboard. But there is an official tie-in comic explaining the backstory. You see, when the ship was new, a Jedi Master saved the ship's special compass from this stupid-looking evil cyborg, and the captain at the time was so grateful, he built a lightsaber training pod on board to honor her. It doesn't really make sense, but that's the explanation. So, the Saja will be teaching us beginner lightsaber techniques with the help of a training remote that shoots lasers. Sort of like the one Luke Skywalker used. But obviously our training remotes don't fly like that, they're just attached to the wall. Useless fun fact, not all the Saja, but a lot of the Saja are female brunettes with vaguely Daisy Ridley-esque faces, and I think that's because a lot of them are cross-trained to play Rey. Or at least the Rey that's way up on the balcony in the fight scene. Probably to maximize their use of the actors, since I don't think Rey is there on day one. It might also be to like save on costs associated with lightsaber stunt training, like now they can just train one person instead of twice as many. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's Reys everywhere. In this activity, everyone gets to try their hands at lightsabering, and there are a couple different rounds to this. In the first round, you're told that a guide light will appear ahead of the laser, so you get a couple seconds to line your lightsaber up with where the laser is going to be. The laser fires, and then the lightsaber vibrates and plays a sound effect as though the laser is actually impacting it. This round is obviously really boring, and that's because in an early leaked patent for this minigame, we can see that this whole first round is simply the calibration phase in disguise. They're very braggadocious about that, like, our game doesn't need calibration before gameplay can begin, because we integrate it into the gameplay. And it's like, okay, but did you really? Are we calling this gameplay? Anyway, as is pretty obvious, the computer is leading you through a series of basic positions with your lightsaber so it can learn your dimensions and incorporate it into the next round. When I was doing my first round, I was kind of hopping around from foot to foot, primarily because I had seen that Josh D'Amaro ad and thought he looked so uncool the way he did that, and I didn't want to repeat his mistakes. But then the Saja had to come by and tell me to stop wiggling around so much because I think I was in danger of compromising the calibration. But it all worked out. You'll see in a second. In the second round, the time between the guide light and the laser blast is slightly shorter, so it's marginally harder but still not overly exciting. But now they add two people behind the lightsaber wielder using these things. This is a reflective shield capable of blocking blaster bolts. I think canonically this shield is built using kyber crystals like a lightsaber is. Maybe a whole bunch of kyber crystals because it lights up in different colors. I saw a lot of people saying this has crazy implications for the canon, but I think it doesn't. I don't think they ever say it blocks lightsabers, just lasers, which doesn't seem like a big deal. And this thing is like really heavy and awkward to hold, so I fully understand why Jedi prefer to just carry a lightsaber and deflect blasts with that.
We saw footage of her asking somebody about that whole blocking lightsabers thing earlier.
They obviously just incorporated this into the experience to try to think of something for people to do when they're not using the lightsabers. So they're like, two people stand behind them and catch the extra lasers that get past their lightsabers, and that doesn't make any sense. And I'm crouching around with this big clumsy shield feeling like a total fool. So eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed something in each round. We have that guide light letting us know where the laser blast is going to hit. But we also have these little sparkles around the training remote. These twinkly lights are divided into quadrants. So while they won't show you exactly where to aim, they do let you know the general direction the blast will go. In the first two rounds, these are redundant since we have the guide light. But in the break before the final round, the Saja offers context for these twinkles. She doesn't acknowledge them directly, but she says that those in tune with the Force can sense where blasts are about to come from. So that's what the twinkles are. In canon, they're not something we're meant to be seeing with the naked eye. They are the Force giving us intuition about where to block. At this point, the Saja teaches us a little chant for team morale.
So does that mean everyone aboard the cruise is a Jedi because
And then she says she thinks we're ready to rely on the Force to block the beams. So for the final round, the blasts come quickly with no guide light, only those twinkles to guide you. My sister was not paying attention during this explanation, but that's actually good news for me because it gave me additional insight into how the tech works. If you look closely, you'll see the major difference in this final round. In the first two rounds, we were trying to aim where the laser would go. But in this final round, the laser is actually tracking us and aiming for our blades. The computer even seems to hold its fire indefinitely until you swing into the correct quadrant. The whole concept with the Force twinkles was just to get us to constrain our blade movements to a smaller area so it would be less visually apparent that the lasers were following us and not the other way around. To an unsuspecting participant, and especially a kid, it'll look like they're doing a great job guessing the precise angle of the laser every time with lightning-fast reflexes. Since Lindsay didn't notice the twinkles, she was pinwheeling her blade all over the place, so it was very apparent to me what was going on. You can literally see the lasers correcting in midair trying to follow her. So I think conceptually that's a fun gimmick. It allows for some sense of escalation, even if individual guests would not be skilled enough to keep up. It simulates the experience of practicing and improving at something all in under 20 minutes. And I loved our Saja. I thought she was funny and was good at retaining people's names and involving everyone in the experience. Unlike the bridge training, this one you do only once and it's never utilized again. In fact, this is the only time you'll even be holding a lightsaber on board. It's forbidden to walk around with them on the ship, I assume due to paranoia that you'll get overexcited and swing into another guest or break a prop. Even if you buy the $200 ship exclusive saber in the gift shop, you're only allowed to take it out, stand still to pose for photos, and then you're expected to store it in your room. So I guess you could say that should enhance the novelty of this experience. But when you imagine being the protagonist in a Star Wars movie, I don't think you're picturing doing target practice. And Disney obviously understands this because they've already done a lightsaber training experience in the theme parks. And in that one, after teaching you some basic training positions, they parade out a Darth Vader or a Kylo Ren to duel the little kids. This show always reminded me of that scene in Space Jam where the bad guys want to imprison Michael Jordan in their theme park and force him to let kids win at basketball. Anyway, such a story moment wouldn't work in an immersive LARP experience, right? They can't have Kylo Ren showing up every 30 minutes. How would they make it work in the story that any of the guests get to defeat the villain, let alone all of them? But therein lies the problem, right? Even in the suspended disbelief of the story, you're still not doing anything very exciting. You're just training, so there's no suspense. It's just a mildly diverting video game demo. If it was free in the theme park and you had to wait 20 minutes to do it, I could see it being reasonably popular, but not something you'd go out of your way to do every time. And just like the bridge training, it doesn't really work as a featured attraction for such an expensive experience. Oh, I should also talk about the engineering bay. That was featured in a lot of the ads too, usually just as a visually interesting backdrop. They never indicated what you would do there, but it looked like it would be something. Before I went, I thought maybe they would schedule groups of 10 or so people at a time to go in there for a story reason, and then it could be like a miniature escape room. Like, you have to gather environmental clues and use those to put the machinery at the correct settings to achieve a goal in the story. And they could have a cast member in the room with you to keep things moving if people got stuck.
We're in the engineering room.
Okay. It's in there. Whoa, what's this?
So I was wrong. Basically, the engineering bay is like an activity area with 10 or so baby-level puzzles. Some are like Simon, where a terminal pings in a certain order.
Okay, so, I know I said we were hopefully gonna finish this video today. Emphasis on the hopefully. Because I do have some other things I need to do. I'm so sorry, specifically like video editing and things that take sound, and that's something I've been kind of dabbling with. Like, eventually I want to try to figure out how to in OBS like split audio. So like, for example, I can separate the audio from my video editing program and mute it for you guys. But unfortunately, that's not something I've been able to successfully do yet. But we will finish this up next time we do a co-working stream, possibly on Tuesday. What we might do, and what I kind of almost did today if I got a little bit of an earlier start, is maybe we'll like warm up with a little bit of co-working and then do some Loop Hero to close out, perhaps? Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, I appreciate y'all so very much for hanging out with me today. Again, apologies that today was extremely not according to schedule, but like I said, for the moment, we should still be good to go for Ultimate Mod at Stardew Valley tomorrow. Possibly a little Clair Obscura ahead of time. That's still very up in the air. Depends on the mood and vibe of the day. I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep for certain and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit of a crazy time right now with my husband's work schedule and having him work late, which fucks up my sleep, and that's just a bit bad. But anyways, I appreciate y'all so very much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it may be for you. And until next time, I will see you folks later. Bye!